shadows hide you. I am listening. Our paths converge.
So good to see you.
Hail to you! Never lose hope.
Here for a chat.
I hear you. It has only begun. Fight on, friend!
Hello and welcome to episode 330 of Off Curve Concede, a Hearthstone podcast dedicated to making the competitive side of the game more accessible to you. I'm just really excited that Steve is here. We're not changing the name, but I love Off Curve. It's a great show. I think about it when I eat ice cream or drive or both. It is Saturday. Weird, I know. February 12th in the evening from Gadsden, New York. It's me, Ridiculous Hat. Yes, I have a voice from Nomergon, Ohio. We have Edelweiss. Hello. And from Northern Massachusetts, our new host, welcome, Wicked Good.
Hi, it is good to be here. Long-time listener, first-time caller.
Yeah, no, you've been on the show.
Actually, that's
before.
not true, but
It's like third time.
Yeah, third time. First-time hoster, I guess we could say that.
Yeah, I don't think people say that, but we're saying that now.
Yeah.
We're saying that now.
I don't know. I'll make it a thing. I don't care.
Yeah, well, you're going to be around for a while, Steve, because we're going to have you on this upcoming week. Bodicus is his shorter break turned to a longer break due to some stuff competing with his time outside of Hearthstone and just games in general. So we'll see him again. He's not leaving the show, but right now should get to know Steve very well. If you didn't already, you probably did. If you've been in the Concede Discord or listened to me on his podcast or listened to him on our podcast or done Hearthstone ever. But he's here. We're very excited. We're also very excited for our patrons, Joris R. and Eric S. Thank you so much for your support of the show. And all of our patrons, we think that you're wonderful. Thank you so much. And all of you leaving reviews out there, we appreciate that too. Really helps other people find the show and totally free. All right, Life and Ladder. Steve, you wrote some weird words here, so you get to go first. Tell us about Life and Ladder.
Well, so I have 11x this month. I've been playing mostly around top 1000, which is good for me. I'm normally struggling to get up there and worried.
That's good for anybody.
Get to 11x rank.
We don't need to mitigate top 1000.
It's I'm not. Well, I'm saying I'm not saying good for me. It's not good for anybody, but more that. Based on my if you don't listen to Off Curve, and I'll forgive you this time. You wouldn't necessarily know where I normally play, and that's not normally where I play. It's kind of higher than I'm used to. So I've been kind of getting myself trained, as a certain someone on this podcast has prodded and cajoled me into doing, which is not wrong, by the way, to play at ranks that I'm not used to playing at. So I've been playing there. I hit top 500 briefly with Buff Paladin, and then I've been enjoying Anaconda Druid, which I hate that Anaconda Druid is viable, because that means that horrible things are happening. But I love playing the deck. So I was playing it last night on stream. I had a 60% win rate with it, and I had one game where I was getting beaten down by a face hunter, which and there was a clip of this if this is sounding familiar to you, but I was getting beaten up by a face hunter, got myself to 8 mana, and I had an alignment in my hand, and alignment was not happening because I was 4 life, and so I just ripped a Cenarian Ward. And Brasswing came down. And if you don't remember what Brasswing does, because nobody ever plays it, it's a 9/7 that does 2 damage to the board, and Honorable Kill heals you for 4 life. And oh, by the way, did I mention they had 2 Trogs on board at the time, which became 4 Trogs. So I went from 4 life to 16, and they hovered over the card for about 30 seconds and then conceded. So that was fun. But I do, I have plenty of games where I would just play a whole bunch of cards and hyper focus for 60 seconds and then hit my opponent in the face for 40, and that's fun. I contrary to popular belief, I do like going face, but I generally like to do it all at once rather than working that in over the course of the game. But yeah, I've been having a lot of fun with that, and just kind of I'm still trying to manage how I learn new decks at these ranks, where I don't want to just throw myself into ladder, which is what I would normally do, because I don't normally care about my rank, but I'm at a rank that I kind of would like to maintain. So I'm still learning how to learn new stuff while still playing at this level. But I figure the more I play at this level, the more I'll get used to it, and I'll figure it out.
Listen, I'm not thrilled about alignment being back, but it takes a good guy with a combo to stop a bad guy with a combo.
Yeah.
Like, what are you gonna do? You got to deal with those Mozakis and those Poison Rogues. I actually wonder if you beat the Poison Rogue matchup. I guess it depends if they
I
have Shank on
ruined
3
a
or
lot
not.
of Owl Warlock days. I will tell you
Yes.
that much.
I believe you. Though you do have to be kind of careful if Rod is already in play, because a hand of 1 can go to a hand of 0, and we don't love that. But I would imagine if they don't have Rod in play, or if they've already finished the Rod, then the alignment is also the game ender, because they concede.
I generally have to wait a turn or two and just kind of stall until they break one, and then hopefully they don't find the other one. Because they always have Rod on 5. Like, that happens every single game. But generally, you wait till they break one, and hopefully they just don't pick up the other one, then you play it, and then they cry.
Not going to miss that card when it rotates out. Oh, wait, it's another year. Well, at least it costs 5 now. Hopefully that's enough. But yes, your experience there is pretty much what I recommend to anyone that's looking to rank up. Like, you have to just play games at that rank, and it'll be like the first time you try and push for Legend, or first time you try and push for any rank floor, you will end up playing more meta stuff when it still feels exciting and different, and then afterwards you'll just queue up whatever crap. Like, it just, you'll play because that's where you play. Edelweiss, how you been doing? How's life in ladder?
So I have not been playing a ton of Constructed. I'm sort of restructuring around my new work schedule, which seems to have me on a lot of 4 to somewhere between 10 p.m. and midnight. And previously I would stream in the afternoons. So I need to figure out what my new normal is going to be. And mostly I've been like doing dailies, keeping up with Mercs tasks, because I'm actually kind of excited about the new Mercs, and then playing a bit of BGs because the buddy stuff is new and interesting. So my engagement with Hearthstone hasn't been a ton. I've been kind of waiting on this mini set and doing a bit of MT prep with my teammates. Lol, that worked out not so great. But hopefully
they did some stuff.
There won't be a huge shift in the meta. We'll see. I do feel like people tend to play it safe when an expansion comes out right before, so they still mostly play older things, but with, card adjustments here and there. It's not like people bring an entirely new archetype because it's so untested. So hopefully the prep we did won't be completely lost, but it's a little rough. And then otherwise I went to the Kamigawa Neon Dynasty pre-release last night, except there were only spots for like one of us between my friend and I, so I gave him the spot and just went through a bunch of EDH decks, just old Magic cards that I'm trying to get rid of all my paper Magic cards, and ended up with $800 store credit by the end at my local game store. So I can now turn the Magic cards that I never use anymore into, I don't know, collector's edition stuff, or just like sweet board games that I otherwise wouldn't be able to get. There's a board game series called like Time Stories. Yeah, Time Stories, that they like release expansions and it adds to the story. And normally that would be like a pretty expensive type of board game to get into, but if I've already got the $800 store credit and I have more Magic cards to get rid of, those weren't even like my most valuable ones. So yeah, I'm excited to continue just doing the Magic card to board game pipeline here. I think one card was half of that as well. Wheel of Fortune.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I've got one of those too. And I have them all like in a binder and like double sealed from when I play, because I played Magic like 1995 to 1998. So like all my cards are ancient, and I've got a bunch of dual lands and stuff like that. And I just like I can't bear to like part with them. Like I can't do it.
If it was Legacy Staples, I have a guy from college who I would off them to, and he would get a good deal.
You have a fence. You have a Magic fence.
He's like a level 2 or 3 judge as well. It's just a good friend from college.
Oh, so he's a fence with credentials.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's but so wait, just one Wheel of Fortune, $400?
Wheel of Fortune has gone up pretty considerably.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you just found one? That's really fortunate.
I mean, it was in one of my EDH decks.
I just wanted to make the pun. It's 2 puns, I guess. That was what I was here
See,
for.
if I react, then it's, you know.
Yeah, I have
Spirit of
mine
Botticus lives on.
Mine was before like sleeves were a thing, so I don't think mine would be getting me nearly that much because it looks like it's been through a war. But
Mine was pretty good condition.
Yeah.
I'm resisting more puns. Okay, well, I'm glad you got the store credit. As for me, it's this standard is a puzzle. We talked about it extensively last week, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around how can a format with so much going on still be so tilting sometimes. But like, I like a lot of the decks, but my current working theory is that in formats with low novelty, when we're in 11 months into a standard year, you play until you find your first dissatisfier, as opposed to most novel formats right after releases and rotations, when you play because of the satisfiers, the things that compel you to play more. It's here I play mostly out of habit and, because I like the game, and then I'm supposed to stop when I find the things that I like less. I said supposed to, because there may or may not have recently been a tilt queue day that caused me to fall well out of top 200. I'll get back there. It'll be fine. I did stop in the 500s, which is better than the last time that I tilted into 10x. But that MMR was broken too. It's not entirely my fault. But I will say, after having an entire day where the most common opponents I faced were Burn Shaman and Miracle Priest, and I was playing Druid, so there were a lot of Snowfall Guardians that were, and some bird friends, and Miracle Priest in general is just very powerful, but a very tilting deck to play against, and I have not yet internalized that Shadow Word Devour is a card, and my 1 health minions don't care if they have Divine Shield, they're going to die anyway. There's been a lot going on. However, Duel's fun. Having a good time there. Wish I didn't have to unlock the treasures. Playing a lot of it anyways. I got to do a Reckless Apprentice for 12 after 2 Mordreshes. Very enjoyable sequence.
Did you win?
I did. That deck had 4 Wildfires and 4 Reckless Apprentices. I think 2 or 3 Mordreshes. Had Infinite Arcane, which has since been is going to be nerfed on Tuesday. A lot of fun. And one of the more fun interactions, the hero power that you choose is 1 mana, deal 1 damage, and add a 2 mana 2/1 Ice Shard to your hand, which is an elemental that freezes when it deals damage. I had Leyline Manipulator in my deck, a very old card, 4 mana 4/5 elemental battlecry. All cards in your hand that didn't start in your deck cost 2 less. So you would do Reckless Apprentice, fill your hand with these things the following turn, slam the Leyline Manipulator, and play 5 Ice Shards. And it's pretty cool. I don't know. Pretty cool. So, yeah, I'm having a good time over there in Duels. Played some BGs. I like BGs right now. I hear the concerns from BGs mains that are like, this is very different from what I wanted BGs to be. I hear you. I feel you. I'm bad at BGs. I'm having a good time. Gallywix is silly. Had some good APM Pirates games. I'm still bad at the format, but like it's just fun and it doesn't feel like Hearthstone. And after I tilted out of standard, I wrote on my task list for the next 3 days, recurring reminders, no ladder this weekend. And I decided no ladder. And so instead I've been doing duels and BGs, and it's kind of cool that when I choose not to play my game, there are other games in my game for me to game. I like that too.
Yeah.
And also, on top of that, I've been playing Sifu. Sifu is a kung fu action game, like a Chinese martial arts action game that is on PlayStation, PC, whatever. And it's kind of like if Sekiro respected your time a lot more, but you still had to replay a lot of the same levels. It's just fewer runbacks and all that, but like it's just so cool, and there's very satisfying punching, and I've been enjoying that, so I've been doing punching. It's good. Good gaming week,
Yeah, Lost Ark came out yesterday too, and I finally got to play that today. And
how is that?
I mean, it's scratching a lot of Diablo itches.
No.
The costumes, the character designs, leave a little bit to be desired. I'm playing a sorceress. You can only be a female mage for some reason. I'm okay with that. The default outfit that they give you is basically like a cocktail dress. with complete with like 3-inch heels that she's somehow fighting in, and yeah, and you can't really like there's like a million different like looks, and like all of them that's basically what you get. And it's like they're having, we were talking about this in the other games channel of the Discord, and Ninja was saying it's hilarious. She's just laughing at it that we're having these very serious conversations about the end of the world with this, when your character is just dressed like they're going out to the club right after. So it's and they have a very interesting idea of pants. Like every pants that they give me are basically like booty shorts. So
it's odd to hear that, because I thought that we had mostly passed this era of gaming.
So did I.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's an article on Rock Paper Shotgun that I'm posting in the chat that says, "Will someone please give my Lost Ark Gunslinger some trousers?"
Yes.
Yes.
Where she talks about laying waste to entire areas of the game in search of just a pair of pants.
Yes.
Yeah, but other than that, I mean, the combat's great. It's very, you move around quickly from quest to quest. It's hitting a lot of Diablo itches, so I'll probably play more of that this weekend too.
Looks fun. Looks dangerous. I'm probably not going to install this. I'm not going to install this. It costs money. That's what I'm telling myself. But yes, so
it will if you get into it too much. Yeah.
So game's good. We're 2 weeks out from Elden Ring. For those of you if that's your thing, that's my wife's thing. I think we're getting a new TV for Elden Ring.
Ooh.
Yes.
Well, what are you doing with your old TV?
Well, holding it until you get here. I don't know. We'll figure that out. We'll deal with logistics later. I should be clear. I want a new TV, and Elden Ring is coming out in 2 weeks. My wife is going to play it and enjoy and reap the benefits. It'll be fine. But yeah.
How are you playing Elden Ring when you're playing Horizon Forbidden West, which comes out next week?
Stop. Okay, I'm gonna pretend these don't exist until they go on sale in a couple of years. Wait, no, they're just on PS5 anyway, right? Well,
yeah, it's gonna be. You're gonna have a while. You got a while.
Yeah. Well, I have a PS5 over there. I didn't
time.
finish Zero Dawn because I didn't love Zero Dawn. I know that's sacrilegious. It just didn't hook me right away. I'll give it another try eventually. I liked the combat. I liked fighting the robo dinosaurs, but then there were a whole bunch of parts of the game that weren't combat or robot dinosaurs, and I lost interest. Because it's...
Wait. What parts?
Where you have to talk to people and do quests and dialogue trees and all that, and then you have to fight against some jerk guy with a mohawk at the top of a mountain that's an obstacle course or whatever, like...
Oh, you didn't get very far into the game at all then, if that's where you dropped out.
Because I lost interest.
No.
It's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I loved murdering all the bandits.
Yeah, bandits and
I was kind of on Nil's side there.
Anyways.
Okay.
I don't envision it.
Murderer in that game. That was fun.
I'm concerned about both of you. So why don't we just transition away from the murder topic and jump into the news?
Gadgets and Gazette always gets the scoop.
Hi, it's me. I do news now. So we had, since the last show, we had 2 sets of patch notes, which is unusual in a 6-day period. But we got one patch, and then we got told about the other patch, which is going to be this upcoming Tuesday. The last patch was this past Tuesday, which was 22.2.2. You can remember that because it was on Tuesday. A lot of just say 2 over and over again until it loses all meaning. So the 22.2 patch, 22.2.2. It's okay. First, this is Battlegrounds and Duels balancing. That's really what this is. So first of all, they removed Archdruid Hamul from the minion pool. So first of all, they just said they wanted to lower the power level in general. Dominic Kelkos talked about it on Twitter. But there were also fringe scenarios where you would have minions, like synergy minions, like Agamagon, the big pig with Quillboars, where that would be the most popular minion tribe that you had in a lobby with no beasts. And so then you would get a pool that was looking for beasts, so it would be entirely Amalgadons. It would be just Amalgadons. That was not optimal. So Hamilton is gone. Also, by the way, when we look at the 22.4 patch notes for the new heroes, when you look at Varden Dawngrasp, then you start to realize why maybe Hamul had to go as well, because that was going to be pretty powerful. When Hamul refreshes the tavern for you, copies and freezes one of the minions, and it's all minions that you want, as well as giving the copy stats equal to your tavern tier twice. That would be powerful. So they removed it in general. They also nerfed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. They changed 30-something buddies. If you were looking for buddy by buddy analysis, that's not happening. So there's a lot of them here. Feel free to comment to the Discord, talk to us about it. The important ones, they did slightly nerf, actually significantly nerf, the Maleficent Manastorm buddy from 4 damage to 3 damage for that stupid squirrel. I believe the double cost 6. They significantly nerfed Illidan's buddy, Eclipsion Illidari. It used to be Wingmen gave both minions immune. Now it is the first minion that attacks only. The golden version is the second minion that attacks. So it's only the Wingmen ones. But it's 1 minion, then 2 minion get immune for 1 attack, as opposed to both minions get immune once into both minions get immune twice. So, huge nerf, cut it in half, and it's bugged. The second minion doesn't even get immune with the golden copy right now. So, they substantially nerfed Illidan. And then they changed a lot of other stuff. So, yeah, there's a lot going on here. It's too much to cover. It feels different, but buddies are still buddies, and if you don't like the mechanic, this is not going to change your mind. They do feel more balanced and more interesting, but buddies are still buddies.
It almost feels like if this was like if they had a PBE or a PTR for the buddy system, that this would have been like the release one. Like they just changed like everything. And I don't even know, like I looked at it when it came out, I'm like, I'm glad I don't play competitive BGs because I like my head was spinning. Like, how do you even process that many changes?
You play for a few days, see how they all feel, and then check HS replay. Like it's a sealed system. I did have a couple really good games with buddies that I wouldn't normally have thought that highly of. Yasharaj was really good for me the other day, where I don't even think they changed the buddy. But it gives any minions that you summon of your current tavern tier +4/+4. The golden copy is +8/8, so that works when you hit the button. And also just anything that you buy. So I had like 5 Cave Hydras on tavern tier 4. I had a golden and then 2 regulars, and like there was a lot of Cave Hydras, and they were large. So I thought that was pretty good. You know, I didn't win the lobby; I came in second, but like, okay, I don't know. I think that if you're a competitive BGs players, the state of the format is where we were in Hearthstone around like League of Explorers-ish era, that many years in, where you're at the point where the constructed players are likely a step ahead of the balanced team. And what is going to probably happen for BGs is that over the next couple of years, if they get more resources for it and find a way to monetize more effectively, which they found one way coming up soon, that they're going to just hire people that are really good BGs players, just play a ton of BGs and figure this stuff out. And Steve, you've made the argument before, and I agree with it. If there's any mode in Hearthstone that could use a PTR and it wouldn't ruin the magic of the discovery, it is this one. It is this mode right here. Maybe Mercenaries. Maybe, but definitely BGs.
Yeah, and TFT does that. Like TFT's got a PBE going on right now for the mid set, and they generally, when they come out of that, they have a lot of significant changes, and like there's a lot of broken comps that they tone down significantly before they unleash it to the masses. And I do wonder, and it's probably a technical debt thing, because hey, I've been on the show half an hour. I've already brought a technical debt. But
it's a new record.
It's probably, I know, but it's probably that it's just hard for them to put something like that together in the client up to now. But I do wonder if that's something that the mode would benefit from, just because there's so many changes and there's no, like, you can say like, well, why didn't they test this? I don't think anybody really is with this, but in general, like, that always, I'm sure somebody on Reddit is, because somebody on Reddit is always saying that. But like, I don't even know how like you can just get enough games in to test something like this. Like, these changes were pretty soon after the last batch of changes too. I mean, I'm sure they were testing them in tandem, but like, how do you really measure? How do you get enough games in as like a a playtesting group to determine what the impact is going to be on the meta. You kind of need like more data just to be able to do that.
Yeah, I think even if they had like 36 people grinding a bunch of games, you wouldn't be able to catch everything that just putting it out there to the public does.
Yeah.
And they don't have 36 people. They definitely have fewer than that. So it's kind of like you get a rough idea of where you want things to land, and hopefully they're not, completely over or underpowered, and then you put it out there, and that's why they did the hot fix, and now another change on the patch immediately after, right? I mean, people will throw shade sometimes about using the player base as testers, and it's like, yeah, because that's the best way to get a lot of data really quickly. It's kind of the only way to do that, because you can't just have that many people on salary.
Yeah.
Well, in buddies in particular, when you do a full refresh like they did 6 months ago, and they just add, like they replace all the minions in the game, you figure those out because they're in every fight. All the new minions are all there is. The entire lobby is exclusively new minions. You get to feel out what's going on here. This is one new minion per hero. There are 70 heroes? Okay. So, assuming you have 8 people playtesting, which I think is even more than the team actually is, you would have to run 9 games with each person getting one different hero to see them all a single time. That is 9 games for 8 different people to play with an eighth of the heroes once. In order to have every tester play with everybody, that is 70 games. Let's assume 15 minutes per game because I'm feeling charitable. So 70 times a quarter. That's what? It's 18 hours for every tester to play with everybody once. Seems insane.
And that's not even taking into account that not all the tribes are offered every game, right?
Yes.
So like now you need to get each one on like one, because like it may just be fine on beasts and then broken on elementals, and you're not going to know that if you don't hit it, right? So
I mean, even if we assume sort of back manipulation, saying, okay, we're going to give you this and this and this and right, which I don't know if they can do that or not, but
they probably can.
It's still a lot of time.
Yeah.
So let's assume that there are 8 tribes, right? They remove 3 from each lobby. So assume that each person plays with each buddy and each tribe one time. That is 70 times 8. That is 560 games. That is a lot of battlegrounds. I don't think that's realistic. So I don't think it is really possible to test for this, which is why in BGs in particular, because it's not just about finding out new things, I do think a PTR for a weekend. Open it for a weekend on a PTR or whatever, call it a beta patch, make it a separate button in the client, whatever, and then do this fast patch. Because the last change that we saw was server side only for Maleficent and Terragosa. It looked weird in the client, so that was 3 cards or whatever, just like as intervention. But this was 9 days after the initial release, something like that. Maybe a little more, maybe 2 weeks. So that is the standard cadence that we get in standard as well, right? They aim for 9 to 14 days for changes immediately after a set launch. I mean, it's it gets pretty chaotic right after set launches these days too. So they also nerfed some duel stuff. In particular, they moved some treasures, or at least they tried to. Battle Totem, Disc of Legend, and Totem of the Dead from Treasure Pool 2 to Treasure Pool 2 Ultra Rare. And it says in the patch notes, for real this time. They tried to do it on the server, couldn't, so they had to do it in the client. And Battle Tactics, Vandar Stormpike's Hero Power. It used to reduce all neutral minions in your hand that cost 4 or more by 2. Now it only does 2 of them. It is worse, still a good deck, substantially worse. Nice change. It's good. Also, fun fact. They increased the maximum number of Bladestorm's activations from 30 to 50 because Ivus broke the game on 20. So now Bladestorm will kill the Ivus. So I guess that came up often enough that they had to do something.
Yeah.
That was the first patch.
And just in case you're wondering, because Meaty asked this question on Twitter, like, why is it not just like 1,000,000? Like, they're trying to put a safeguard in so that there's not a scenario where like two minions both spawn each other when the one dies, and then you end up in an infinite loop. So there's like a hard cutoff somewhere.
It would be Grim Patron. Like specifically Grim Patron. Yeah. It's if you Bladestorm a Grim Patron, it goes 50 times. It's going to go 50 times. So
yeah, exactly. We'd rather not happen.
It
and you
should,
actually
right?
get to end the game. Yeah.
Yeah. So if that was 1,000,000, then you could come back the next day, I guess.
Yeah.
That wouldn't work with Grim Patron. Bladestorm stops when something dies.
Oh, it does. It's not. So it's. I wonder. I'm sure there's something.
It really is just an enormous.
Or if
minion,
it's something
right?
something that gets like +1/+1 every time it gets damaged or something, right? Like I don't know what, there's got to be some sort of a scenario that would break it. So it's just a failsafe. Like we don't need to figure out if it's actually possible or not. But they could design. I mean, Wild will break something, right? Eventually. So better to just have that hard count in the game and not like make it 1,000,000, because then you're sitting there for 3 hours waiting for it to finish.
Yeah. Oh, Dowolf has it right. I was thinking of Defile. Defile was the potentially infinite card.
Yeah.
And that's why they also had to nerf Dreadsteed. Justice for Dreadsteed!
Yeah.
So anyways, that was the first patch. But there's another one coming on Tuesday. It is much more exciting, at least for us, here in this constructed show. I'm sure that people were excited about 35 BG changes. Though, again, it was just nudging numbers on Buddy, so it didn't feel dramatically different, just for balancing. 22.4 is going to feel dramatically different when it comes out this upcoming Tuesday, because Onyxia's Lair, the mini-set, launches on February 15th. And until then, we get spoilers and a really great theme song. Oh man, like a Disney villain sort of thing. Loved it. Thought it was fantastic. So yeah, mini set. We're going to talk about this, well, for most of the rest of the show. Almost all the rest of the show. So we'll just get into it. Diamond Vandar is coming though. That is here. It's what they give a date. No. They just said he's on his way. Might also confirm that the Honor Quest chain is still going. There was an issue where that quest disappeared. They put it back. It's fine. There are 3 new Battlegrounds heroes. Varden Dawngrasp, their hero power is a passive after Bob's Tavern is refreshed. Copy and freeze one of Bob's minions. And the buddy there gives that minion stats equal to your Tavern tier or the golden twice as much. Rokara, after a friendly minion kills an enemy, give it +1 attack permanently. The buddy there also gives it +1 health. The golden +2 health. The buddy is also an adorable puppy named Ice Snarl. Very cute. And then Onyxia, Broodmother is her passive. Avenge 4, summon a 2/1 whelp that attacks immediately. And the buddy, many whelps. Whenever you summon a whelp, this thing gains +2/+2 permanently. The golden copy gains +4/+4. So very Avenge heavy. Avenge 4 is a big number, but they are, I guess, shooting a little lower here, or so it seems, or maybe they know something that we don't. It's probably pretty easy to set up a bunch of Avenge chains if you want to, which means a bunch of free whelps, and that many whelps gets much bigger. Kind of if you play with, like, Acolytes of Cthulhu, then you end up with this weird Champion of Yasharash equivalent.
Also, after the first one, it counts.
Yeah, the whelp counts towards Avenge. Yeah.
So I think that's why you can't make it too low, because if it was Avenge 3 and it feeds itself, like that's getting into really spooky territory. So I think
it wants to force you into like a token strategy of some sort to get it to happen. Yeah.
So, looks cool. Curious to see. There's also a new Battlegrounds cosmetic item. There's some controversy around the name, but it is currently called Finishers. If we weren't bound by trademark, we would call these fatalities. But we are, so they're not. Also, this is a children's game. There is a meme going around today on Twitter for those of you grown-ups. If you want a PG-13 conversation, go check out Slissa's Twitter. You probably already followed. The animations vary, but the first one that we see is, I think the term finisher could potentially be misconstrued. Maybe there's something they talk about on Blizzard this week. I haven't listened yet. The first finisher is Astral Impact, and the way these work, you're basically buying an animation that when you win, you dunk on your opponent in a cool way, and when you kill them, it's like a bigger, flashier dunk. It's cool if you deal 15 or more damage. So there will be more. There are a couple new Battlegrounds boards that look pretty cool. And in fact, on the 14th, Monday, Valentine's Day, Nina's Noob is hosting an interview with Celestalon, Chad Nervig, the new features lead, by the way, he got promoted. We'll talk about that in a second. And Alicia Cornelia, the cosmetics production lead. They're going to talk about the new animations, the new boards, like the Jade Gardens Battleground board, which looks really, really nice. And the Cosmic Study Battlegrounds board as well. These all become available starting on February 22nd. So that's going to be a little bit later. So yeah. It's cool. And the note here is that both players will be able to see the winning player's finishing animation at the end of any round of combat. So when you're buying it, the winner, if there's a fancy animation equipped, both people see it. So it's not just for you. If that makes you feel
I would like to say that your reply was even worse.
I'm not repeating that here. This is a family show. I'm not, and worse or better? Yes. Anyways.
Strictly worse.
Substantially better. Yes, I heard you. So there are also some Mercenaries updates. And Edelweiss, you got to get it together because I got to talk to you about this in a second here. The Mercenaries are going to be hosting a limited time event. There are going to be 10 exciting event tasks to harness the power of Chi-Ji, which for those of you that played WoW, this is the healing chicken that monks get to summon. And you strengthen all the August Celestials. There are 2 new tasks on each of the first 5 days of the event, but you have until March 8th to complete all 10 tasks. You get a Chi-Ji Epic Mercenary card if you finish them all, a portrait, and a bunch of mercenary coins for all the new Mercs. So you prepare for this event to begin, make your way through all the Alterac Valley bounties, and take special care to strengthen your beasts and dragons. They will be essential for some of these tasks. They are giving us warning. Deck Tech specified on Twitter. You really want to pay attention to this. This is for engaged Mercs players right now. Now, I've heard the question in many Discords that I'm in, why are they making an event for engaged players? Doesn't seem kind of counterproductive to make this event with requirements when you're trying to attract new players. And my answer is, we're not trying to attract new players yet. They have to fix the packs first. Because new players are going to run into the same issues that we all did if they try and jump in now. So that's not what the goal is.
I mean, actually, I think in some respects, being a new player makes the packs feel most worthwhile because you're pretty likely to open stuff that you can use. It's sort of a weird reverse situation where if you didn't open any of like the pre-purchase stuff and aren't ahead in that way, that your packs are just going to give you a better spread of things. Whereas if all you need is the new Mercs, then your packs are kind of bad because you open a bunch of stuff you already have maxed out. But I think that for the type of game that Mercenaries is, this is like a core thing of the genre, is limited time events. I think it's actually really cool that you can still get Chi-Ji after the event is over, because many times that is not the case. And I was a little worried when I saw limited time event. I was like, oh no, people are going to freak out if like you can't get this after the event's over. But you can still get the character in through normal means once the event is over, which is great. And if you are able to complete the event, then you get the mercenary for free, which is great. So I'm pretty excited, in part because I've liked doing tribal synergies a lot. I mean, even in Magic, I enjoyed doing tribal synergies. So getting more dragons to maybe do like an all dragons team and getting more beasts to do an all beasts team is very cool. And looking at some of the abilities on these Mercs, they're playing with a lot of cool stuff. There's one that steals attack from other characters sort of a lot at a time. They're doing more stuff kind of messing with play order and sort of triggered abilities. So I think they continue to find ways to add a lot of depth. And so I hope that these will see some serious play in PvP. I just also wish that this patch announcement gave us like and now here's something to do with your excess coins. But
I mean, at least like giving coins as part of the event is something that they haven't done before, and that should help, right? Like a lot of like I was very engaged in Mercs early on. I mean, I was casting some of the early tournaments and stuff like that, and then the more that I started trying to prepare for those events, the harder it got because like just being able like once Cookie came out, and then you had to try to grind for Cookie coins when you don't, without spending a whole bunch of money on packs, it isn't going to get you Cookie. It's hard, right? So if these are coins that are specifically for those Mercs to help you level those up, that should kind of ease a little bit of the pain, especially for engaged players who are going to be the ones that are going to be getting that, to be able to actually use these Mercs and be able to do that without having to go. It's like it's an assignment when there's a new Merc release. It's like, okay, well now I need to go grind bounties, or now I need to go task farming. And it's like, no, well, here's some coins to at least help you get there, or at least make the task farming a little bit easier, because when you're trying to task farm with like level 1 abilities, it is a grind and a half. And being able to at least make that task farming a little bit easier to get you up to even like 2 or 3 is enough to at least like make it like reasonable, then that'll help a lot. So I think that they're moving in the right direction with this. But yeah, doing something with the excess coins, being able to target coins at a particular Merc you're trying to level up, something like that, to help people get, at least for being able to get engaged in PvP, if that's something that they want to do, is something that's hopefully I know that they're working on it. It'll be coming soon, but this is going to be good, at least to help keep the engaged players from falling off, because that's kind of the other fear right now.
And something I have noticed that I don't know if this is just in my head thing, like I only notice when it matters and don't when it doesn't, but it has felt to me as though doing late number tasks, even for characters that I have maxed, like the odds of my getting coins for some of the newer Mercs, or for my unmaxed Mercs, has been better. Could be a weird bias thing of just like, well, I hardly notice if I get ones for characters that are all maxed, but to me it has felt like I've been getting more coins for the unmaxed characters. Yeah, that's complete, like it's strictly based on experience, and I haven't been actually tracking it or anything, so I don't know.
And small sample sizes are small.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I've just been getting lucky.
Well, and my long-standing theory for the entirety of Mercenaries has been that the structure was designed by the business team and that the gameplay was designed by the Mercs gameplay team, and they are not really as compatible as they should be. And this event sounds to me like what it would be if the gameplay team got to drive the bus. It is about as accessible as it gets. You get things by just playing the game, and there's a whole bunch of resources there, and they give you a playable Merc and a portrait and coins right away, and they're marketing this towards people that have already been playing as a way to keep things interesting and giving them heads up about what to do. This looks like to me, if the gameplay team got more of what they want, it would look like this. So I hope that's what's happening.
I mean, it'll get me to try it again, because I mean, I've bounced off it a little bit. I haven't played it in a few weeks, but I mean, I've got a bunch of, beasts were meta when I was playing PvP, and I leveled up some dragons. I could probably work on that, but like I'm not that far off from being able to do it. I probably just need to do the new bounties that I haven't really been paying attention to. So that'll be enough to like, that's like, a carrot at the end of the stick to get me to try it again. And hopefully, some of those things will get better as time goes on. I'm sure it will.
And I will say that as challenging as it can be to get coins for certain characters, it has felt like they've really put some power into the rare Mercs that have been new, because Lokhalar is terrifying. I mean, so this character has an ice ability that repeats an awful lot of times. I think with one of the equipment, it repeats like 7 or more times. So when you pair that with Jaina, who gives you frost spell damage, you turn something from like a bunch of instances of 3 damage into a bunch of instances of 6 damage. It's like frost machine gun. So
that's a bunch of damage. And Sinestra is a rare too, and is also extremely powerful.
Yeah, I haven't gotten the chance to see her in action, but she does seem pretty sweet.
I mean, you're saying things that sound like Shadow Reaper Anduin, so that has my attention. So
yes. So Mercs, go get your chicken. Go get your chicken. And Duels got another nerf. Infinite Arcane increased from 5 mana to 7 mana. I really like playing with Infinite Arcane, but man, was it busted. For those of you that don't know what this is, 5 mana, destroy your deck. Each turn, discover a card that started in your deck, and put it on top of your deck, and it costs 2 less. So, I had this in my Reckless Apprentice for 12 deck, and let me tell you, when you can just get Mordrish or Frostnova every turn, it's quite good. I would have preferred Mordrish, but sometimes I had to go with Frostnova or Blizzard or Reckless Apprentice. It was fine. It was pretty good. And there are other applications here where you just get the same thing over and over and over again. So it needed to be worse, so they made it worse. So, I'll miss it. Maybe 6 would have been okay. 7 basically means you really have to be safe to play 7 mana do nothing. And it was around for a long time. But it was a little too good.
I will not miss it. Good, get out. Like, to play against that card. And as soon as that came down, I just rolled my eyes all the way back into my head. So that I cannot go away fast enough.
Yeah, it created very, very repetitive game states. In addition, Arena rotation, the new card sets that will be in there are Alterac Valley, along with Onyxia's Lair, One Night in Karazhan, Blackrock Mountain, Journey to Ungoro, Main Streets of Gadgetzan, Descent of Dragons, and Core. You may notice a lot of dragon stuff going on here. I believe these are all the Dragon Matters sets. Bookworm is in One Night in Karazhan, along with Netherspite and all that. Netherspite Historian. Blackrock Mountain was the original dragon set, I believe. Ungoro had dragony stuff. MSG had Secret Agent coming through. And Descent of Dragons, of course, it's in the name. So
you're really just missing TGT. I think TGT had a couple of the Dragon Priest cards. But what was
Dustbreaker was kobolds.
Yeah, I'm thinking of the one that the 4 mana 3/6
Chilmaw.
Yeah, Chilmaw too.
Twilight Guardian.
Yeah,
yes.
that was the big one. So I think that was TGT. But other than that, yeah, these are all a lot of the dragons are going to be there.
Yes. So
this makes me want to play Arena, kind of.
I am guessing that you have some tavern tickets. I'm guessing you got a few of those.
Probably.
I actually spent a bunch of them on Duels.
Man, everyone playing heroic Duels, casual Duels. I've never spent a tavern ticket on Duels in my life.
I don't usually, but what else am I going to use the tickets on?
Yeah.
Arena.
Yeah, I did the same thing when I was camping 11X because I realized I had 8 tavern tickets and I wasn't particularly interested in playing Arena, and I was very interested in summoning a flame imp every time that I generated a soul fragment, especially when you could get double battle cries and I could play a 4 mana 10/11. that was something that was relevant to me. Because Void Drink, I had double battle cries and -1, and all the battle cries cost 1 less, and I just play a Void Drink on turn 4 and get a 10/11 taunt and say your turn, and then they use their Vandar hero power and kill me. So
yeah, that sounds fun. Yeah. So anyways, we've got Book of Mercenaries Brukan coming. We already have mild spoilers from the flavor text on Spirit Mount in the new set, Onyxia's Lair, but looks like it's going to be pretty heavy. But I'm looking forward to playing it. This arc is coming to a close. We've got a little bit more, but we're going to see the epic conclusion in the next month or so, I guess. Because after this, we've got Dawn Grasp and just Dawn Grasp. Is that the last one?
I think it's just Dawn Grasp. Yeah.
Almost there. Wait, do we have book Guff? Yeah. Did Guff get a book?
Guff got a book. Guff was early on.
I wasn't sure if he knew how to read. So, and then finally
we have. Nice.
I love Guff. He doesn't need to read. He just needs to be Guff. That's not a judgment. It's an honest question. All right. So bug fixes and improvements. This top improvement I like a lot. If you're going to concede a game before you would get quest progress for that game, it gives you a pop-up when you click Concede. It stops you from doing it if you're not going to get credit. I think this is awesome. And also it says we have loosened the requirements on counting these types of quests.
I'm just surprised it took, like, seems like a pretty, I mean, nothing is ever simple, right? But, like, it feels like a pretty simple solution to this, and I'm surprised that it took this long, but it was probably just low on everyone's priority list to do it, right? And they finally just kind of worked it in. But yeah, I mean, we hear about this all the time, right? Like, it's like, well, I had a quest and then I conceded. Why didn't I get, why do I have to play? Especially when they do like the play 8 shaman quests for like 3 packs or whatever, right? When they do the legendary quests and people just want to get through those, like, and then it's like, well, now I have to play more shaman games that I don't want to play, right? So like, it's really good that they're doing this, because this has been a complaint like forever. For as long as I can remember, that this has been an issue and people get confused by it. So that's really great that they're putting that in to tell people that it's happening, and also let them kind of, adjust course before they just salty concede. And it won't help you if you rage quit, but nothing should help you if you rage quit. So.
Yeah. It's simple. I don't know if it was easy, but it is simple.
Yeah, it's elegant, I guess, is what I would say.
Yeah, well, it seems like a very obvious idea. I just don't know how intensive implementation was. Yeah. But I'm glad they did it. This seems like the sort of thing, like we said earlier, Celestalon has been promoted to Features Lead of Hearthstone, a new title for him, where all these featurey things of stuff you do in the client that isn't gameplay specific, those are all under his purview now. So, like, I talked to him recently, suggested that maybe there should be a warning if you craft a card that's banned in any format. If you go to make Demon Seed, make a pop-up that says, this is banned in Wild, are you sure you want to craft? And he's like, yeah, that seems like a reasonable idea. So, don't know where that is in the to-do list, don't know where this was, but this got done. I think it's a nice thing. And yeah, the complaints intensified as well. There was one patch in Darkmoon Faire where this was bugged and you got credit instantly, even if you conceded on turn 1. And people thought that it was an intended change. And then they put it back like 2 weeks later, and people have been miserable about it ever since. And that was a while ago. That was a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. So this is, I think it's a nice change. I'm glad they did it. Other bug changes. Maestra, you no longer need to craft the golden one, even though they nerfed that deck already. They now have it match your base hero. So if you have a golden mage, you don't need a golden maestra, just the golden mage is enough to make it golden. Couple other bugs here, nothing that's really crazy. Oh, the immovable object has finally been moved. That achievement is now completable. I maintain the funniest bug they've had for a while. There's a bunch of other stuff in here, like the duels lockout bug. They fixed that too. So yeah.
And they fixed the Demon Hunter, like, hero power showing as 2 bug in a previous patch, right, with Maestra. Like where you'd hover over the hero power.
Oh, with the Demon Hunter hero power, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. They fixed that, and they fixed Maestra choosing to disguise herself as a rogue. They fixed that twice. Or 3 times. A lot of times.
It's not a very good disguise.
That's what they said in the patch notes. Not her best disguise.
Yeah.
So yeah. And that's just patch notes. 55 minutes in. My goodness. So
we
yeah.
haven't talked about cards yet. Good grief.
We haven't even talked about tournaments yet. However, before we get there, I do want to put a Twitter thread up on the screen because Cora is an amazing person and great developer, and she posted a bunch of insights about all of the cards. There are articles summarizing them over and out of cards, or you can go to her Twitter. There are threads about, she has individual development notes about so many different cards. However, she had a separate thread that I really wanted to make sure that we all saw and read and understood and processed together. I'm seeing some comments about cards in the Onyxia's Lair mini set basically boiling down to these cards can't compete with OTK decks, and I'd like to share my thoughts. We've made a real effort in the last few months to reduce the power level and representation of combo and OTK in the meta. Measuring every card reveal based on whether it can compete versus a Questlock deck is totally reasonable, but the landscape will continue to change. With the core set rotation and the release of the first expansion of the new year, I think you'll see an effort to incentivize board-based gameplay, something that I've personally been keeping in mind when designing cards for this upcoming year. Basically, We want as much variety as we can have in a standard cycle. This year, combo and OTK flourished, and so we will continue to create decks and balance the meta so other strategies have a chance to flourish as well. A lot of the Onyxia's Lair mini set is designed with the future in mind and not necessarily just slotting cards into existing decks. Some things certainly would fit the landscape for right now, but we like to think ahead as well. So yeah, TLDR, I'm excited for what we've cooked up for this year, and I think you will be too. Hope you're enjoying the Onyxia's Lair card reveals. Edelweiss, thoughts?
This is kind of my entire approach to right now. Anytime people are sort of doom and gloom about OTKs and the state of Hearthstone, I've sort of been saying for a while that, hey, this is the first time ever we're going to have a core set change, and that combined with rotation, new cards, has the potential to just dramatically shift the way that the game plays out. I think that, the quests and certain other cards, types of draw, cost reduction, have disproportionately made this year a combo year, and that has not felt fun for a lot of folks. But they've learned from that, and I know it's a bit longer than some people were hoping for, but rotation is the time for big drastic changes, and there is so much flexibility since they can pull from the entire wild pool of cards to say, okay, here, we'll put this in. We'll put in a spell that does damage only to minions and not to face, because we don't want as much from hand damage in the game. There's all kinds of decisions that could be made. Quest Shaman, as an example, could suddenly just have overload cards that don't go face, right? Maybe your end game with Quest Shaman ends up being doubling spells that summon minions. I mean, we've had spell decks in the past that still did a lot of stuff with minions. I'm thinking of Spell Hunter in particular, where you had the Spell Stone. Sometimes you had To My Side. There was the whole Barnes Yashraj thing. Obviously, we don't really want that, but
yeah. Well, and also Skolo Man Cyclone Mage was big on Mana Giant Conjurer's Calling.
Yeah.
I'm not going to defend that play experience, but it didn't kill you with burn at least. It was usually they just made a board you couldn't deal with and also froze your stuff and generated a bunch of answers, but no burn.
True.
Or at least not a lot of burn.
Yeah, it would have been interesting to see that deck play into Shamans freezing the board, I guess. I don't know.
Interesting for whom?
Interesting in the Chinese proverb sense?
Yeah.
But, right, exactly. There things that can be brought back or transformed with the core set that I think it's unfair to say, oh, this is what Hearthstone has become, because we've only had 1 year of core sets.
Yeah, and I think it's also this is how a third, we haven't had enough third set mini sets to really know how these are supposed to go, but the last mini set had both Nitro Boost Poison and Backfire, right? Nitro Boost Poison was so busted that they had to nerf it before they had to nerf it before or right after rotation. I don't remember if it was before or after, but it doesn't matter.
Nitro was right before.
It was right before.
Yeah,
and then
Crab Rider was right after. Hysteria was before and after. Yeah. That set had a lot going on.
Hysteria was only sort of broken in Wild before, and then it was broken everywhere after. But Backfire is a card that saw no play until rotation, and then after rotation was a card that had come up in basically almost every balance change prediction thread up until, and somehow it's been like Edwin where it's dodged every single one of them. But it's been in almost every, I think it's been in every Warlock deck that's been meta relevant from the beginning of the year on. So it's there's going to be a mix of those, and not everything is going to be for right now, and that's okay, right? We've got rotation coming in a month and a half, probably. So, I don't think that this is, there are going to be some powerful cards in the set. They're going to change some play patterns. But I don't think expecting 35 cards to come into a set of 1,000 plus, or however many cards there are in standard right now, and expect that to completely change the meta is realistic. I think it's going to offer, one or it may change the power levels of some decks. It may enable maybe one new archetype. I'm not even so sure with what we're seeing that's going to happen. But it's going to be setting a foundation for next year. And I think that's another way to look at it. So there is a little bit of delayed gratification with this set.
And I actually want to bring up another quick thing, which is that there's a possibility some of this will be sooner than we anticipated. There was some speculation going on because they confirmed that the names of the Masters Tours have not all been revealed because they would be spoilers for, expansions or mini sets. We finally got the name of Masters Tour 1 for this year, which is Masters Tour Onyxia's Lair. And it's coming out 3 days before its corresponding Masters Tour. So this is speculation, but if you're supposed to have the cards from the namesake playable in the corresponding Masters Tour, the Masters Tour 2 is March 18th. So that would mean a March 15th for whatever it's named after, which seems awfully early. It might end up being that, okay, they don't need to be playable. It just means that it'll be announced by then, but we'll just be getting spoilers when that Masters Tour goes on. That does seem a little weird to have a Masters Tour named after something that you're not actually going to have those cards yet to play in the event. But there's going to be 6 Masters Tours over the course of the year. We have 3 expansions and 3 mini sets with each of them. It would be a little horrifying if they all came out 3 days before their corresponding Masters Tour, but based on these first 2, that might be a possibility.
I mean, your services might be in demand as someone having to put together a lineup with about 48 hours or less of, well, I guess in your case it was like 6 ahead of a major tournament. You might be able to coach some people on that.
I don't know if you really coach someone on, I stayed up till 2 a.m. with Ray C, just like jamming whatever we thought might work.
I mean, that sounds like an effective strategy. Also, like, I understand that it was high pressure, but staying up too late and jamming games with Ray C, like, I'm down. I'll do that.
Especially if there's Dunkin' Donuts involved. I mean,
a refreshing Dunkin' Donuts iced Coolata beverage TM would just really hit the spot if I were in that scenario.
For that Geico tournament, the Dunkin' Donuts Coolata ended up being a misplay.
Yes. Wait, because the term was too long or too short?
Oh, he ended up in a control mirror, had to use the bathroom real bad.
I remember that was
yes.
There's video of that on the internet where that game went too long and
that.
he needed it to end because he needed to go use the restroom. Yeah.
Switch to mobile. Switch to mobile and have the judge stand outside your stall. Oh. Anyways, speaking of tournaments, we can get into more formal tournament discussion here in the next section with our tournament expert, WickedGood.
It's the grand tournament!
So we are into week 2 of qualifiers for Masters Tour 2. Right now, the meta is starting to stabilize. We've got the most brought decks that we're seeing in the meta right now are Fell Demon Hunter, Ramp Druid, Libram Paladin, Face Hunter, Burn Shaman, and Handlock. Those are all roughly between 20 to 25%. Fell Demon Hunter is kind of split between the non-quest and the quest version, which I may be changing in my data that you can find at offcurve.com/masters tour. I hear the guy who maintains that is smart and handsome.
Where'd you hear that? Where's your source? What's your source on that?
Source is my wife.
Oh, that's all right. I trust Maureen.
So I may be combining the Fell Demon Hunter and Quest Fell Demon Hunter because they're kind of doing the same things. They're just one's a little bit faster than the other, but they're all kind of in the 20 to 25%. So those are the decks you're going to be wanting to look to have a plan against. Most of them. Libram Paladin right now is in the top 5, but it is the top deck of bans and is also still in the top 5 based on win rate. So maybe that might be the one you want to ban, because if it's doing that well despite being targeted, maybe the targets aren't working so great. The highest win rate decks overall are Owl TK, Fell Demon Hunter, Libram Paladin, Miracle Priest, Quest Shaman, and Burn Shaman. But Control Warrior is in, as of the last time I ran the data this weekend, 6 of 9 winning lineups this weekend. And
the last 4 have all had a warrior in them, including one that was a N'Zoth warrior that did not have any combo help for Galvangar, and did run an Acidic Swamp Ooze instead of a Rustrod Viper so that N'Zoth did not get messed up and you always got back Kresh. That was good enough to win a qualifier.
That's making me feel feelings, Hat. You can't do that to me in the middle of recording a podcast.
There's a lot going on, and it does kind of also make sense that all of these decks, I stand by this. You are not banning Libram Paladin. You are banning Cariel. They are banning the card Cariel, but you have to ban 29 other cards to go with it. You can't just ban the one. So they ban Cariel and take an entire class with it. But yes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the last 6 have had a warrior in the winning lineup, all control warriors.
Yeah, it's generally Fell Demon Hunter, some sort of Shaman, Quest or Burn, and Control Warrior or Handlock is kind of the way that a lot of the winning lineups have been going. So maybe practice those if you're looking to play in a qualifier this weekend. If you're watching live.
The most recent one is just goofy. It's Fell DH, the Charge, Control, whatever warrior you want to call it, and then the Multicaster Quest Hunter with the Dunbalder Bunker, the new build of Quest Hunter. That's the most recent winning lineup. Not what I expected to see today. But it's a good deck. It's a fun deck. And I've been playing it like it is good enough, but yeah, it's pretty amazing how you keep Arcane Shot in the opener because the secrets are fire and frost, and so that's your only arcane spell is Arcane Shot. So you just fire it off. You just get it in there.
Yeah, credit to Sidisi for telling everybody the Multicaster was bad so they would all try it. And as far as so as far as ladder's concerned, Burn Shaman's been starting to make its presence known in the meta. Orange put out a video on that last week, which kind of educated a lot of people into playing it. So that's been kind of eclipsing the other shamans. Bolner's DK is kind of the biggest one to take a hit from that. Quest Shaman is kind of not in as good of a spot now as it was. So Burn Shaman's really the one that you want to be playing if you really want to just freeze everything and then, hit your opponent in the face for 30. That's what you want to do. The way that you're beating that is by killing your opponent with minions before they can freeze the board. So Beast Druid and Taunt Druid are at the top of the list, along with the new version of Buff Paladin, which is a little bit slower and not really great into shamans, but it's good into almost everything else. And I had a sick, that was the deck I took in the top 500. I had a 6 win streak with that. And Righteous Defense, I think is the name of the card, the one that steals your steals the health and attack from a minion and puts it onto a minion in your hand. That card is a house. That is a really good card. I queued into Unlimited Power, who was playing Miracle Priest, and he had buffed up in Asmani to 10, 13 or whatever. So I just took that, and of course it hit the Mr. Smite in my hand. So I just dove it for 16, and that was the end of the game. And that's not an uncommon thing to happen with that deck. So if you have not tried Buff Paladin, I would recommend it. It's fun. If it's a fun, different way to play the classic at least. But Shadow Priest also very fast. That's kind of your tier 1 right now. And the Shamans, Libram, a lot of the decks that we just talked about are the kind of the old standbys. Burn Shaman, Elemental Shaman's actually a little bit higher than I would have expected. Libram Paladin, Face Hunter, Handlock, Quest Shaman. You can basically play a deck in almost any class as long as it's not Rogue, and even Rogue is kind of okay, but it's on the decline. They're saying that even the Poison Rogue, which is kind of keeping the class afloat right now, is starting to see some downtick in win rate. So, but there's a lot of options. You can find something to climb with pretty much anything that you want to, but you are going to have to. You're going to be more limited by your emotional, stamina than you are by the actual matchups right now, because there are still some decks that will feel bad, and you'll probably want to close the client after you play into them. So that's going to be a lot of your limiting factor, more so than just having available decks to play, because the matchups aren't too polarized, but there's always going to be like one boogeyman for anything you're playing.
Yep. You have to be able to deal with Trogs on 1, Snowfall Guardians, and I don't know, there are still all sorts of ways that you die from hand. Like Burn Shaman is just freeze and damage. So this is seeing a lot more play because it is the Shaman deck that beats Warlocks. And really the only one that consistently does that. And it's very good at it because they can't go wide because you freeze them. And that whole Demon Seed thing, they have to take a bunch of damage. And you're like, oh, cool, we both want to damage the same hero. And then they just, the turn that you go off, you play Big Tammy, they just kill you with overdrafts. You just die. And they have all the time in the world to see that coming.
If they don't have a showstopper that they can kill and then hit you in the face anyway.
Yes, the showstopper tech in Handlock is really nice against the Guardians. But typically Burn Shaman can put the damage together enough in the mid. They only need like 15. So when you end up with like, if you have a Novice Zapper and then anything you get up Primordial Studies like a Guild Trader or another Novice Zapper, then you just end up doing that with like 4 cards. It's not too hard to kill from 15, 16. Yep. Especially if they go Bloom Caverns on 1, then you're killing from like 7. You're killing from very low life totals because they've already gotten hit by 3/4s a whole lot of times.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, ladders. It is academically interesting. There is a lot of variety. I have seen Questro get a little better in the stats with the rise of Buff Paladin and other things. But yeah, it's very easy to find a play pattern that makes me say, let's talk about what's next. And what's next is Onyxia's Lair. So why don't we talk about that? However, real quick, if you're listening to this, Concede listener, I know you're saying, when is the next listener series going to be? Are we going to have one for this mini set before rotation? Yes. Sign-ups this week. And then we start next Monday. So keep an eye out for that. The forum will go up as soon as I get around to it, so I'm not going to commit to a date because I don't believe in that kind of self-imposed accountability at this time. All right, let's go into Decksplanations.
So, we got new mini set announced, and as is the rapid cadence with these, it's coming out on Tuesday and wrecking all our playtesting for Masters Tours. But I have chosen, we're doing the same format as usual. Card you can't wait to play with, card you're scared of, card you want to be good but isn't, card you think is over or underrated, and a card you don't understand. Previous times we've also referenced our last picks, but we didn't have Wicked Good with us for previous times, and I didn't feel like digging it up.
All when I did them,
so you know. Yeah, we're not going to reference back, and it's going to take us some time to get through these, anyways. Yeah, there's a lot of really cool stuff coming out. This was kind of a hard one for me. I think also to like not pick the same stuff as other people, but Hat, you're kind of surprising me here with cards you can't wait to play with. Oh, you're muted?
I am muted. Warrior cards! They're cool! So, okay, the warrior cards, right? These are warrior cards, except they do stuff, and I like that for warrior, because most of what warrior has got in recent sets are either quest warrior cards, which these aren't, or cards that don't do stuff, which I don't like. So there are 3 warrior cards, and they're all pretty different, but they're all pretty efficient. There's a really cheap buff that gives rush, and also it has tradable, and Broom is rotating, so like I want to target something and have it attack right away. There's a dragon that deals damage based on the amount of armor that you have in taunt, so like Vilespine Slayer with taunt, like I'm cool with that. And there's Hit It Very Hard, which we're going to talk about. Am I saying card names? I should do that. What is the name of this card? Onyxia's something?
No. I'm just saying Onyxia's Drake is Shield Slam, not Vilespine.
I mean, you're going to kill some stuff with this, right? You're maybe soften some stuff, but you're going to kill some stuff. And like really nice. All of these cards have, or at least the Drake and the Hit It Very Hard both have great synergy with Frozen Buckler, so we're actually going to have more reason to play that, and like we're going to immediately deal damage to things, and we're going to gain the armor, we're going to do stuff with the armor and whatever. And then Hit It Very Hard, 1 mana spell. I know you're going to talk about this. 1 mana spell, you gain plus 10 attack this turn and can't attack heroes. So 1 mana kill a thing right now. 1 mana kill a Flesh Giant. Okay. That's I want to kill things for 1 mana. I loved one of the most played decks. I think we posted, there was this Twitter thread going around last week of post your full lifetime HS replay stats or Hearthstone deck tracker stats. And I am compulsive with my stats. I copy them from computer to computer as the first one of the first things I do whenever I change computers or reinstall Windows or whatever, which I do more than I probably should. So I had stats of every game I'd played since 2015. All of them. And my most played deck was Elise Control Warrior, because Control Warrior was the first deck that I truly fell in love with. They sold my Magic Online collection to finance it, because it was called Wall of Warrior back then. You needed like 19 legendaries. So I had played a ton of games with that. Played 1 mana Execute and Shield Slam. And that was kind of your removal 4-pack. And we get to do that here, except I don't have to set it up. I just have to not die this turn or the next turn. But if I kill the thing that's going to kill me, then I'm not going to die. That's kind of just how it goes. So we'll gain the armor back later. But instead of Shield Slam, where you have to, like, Shield Slam is a debit card. You have to have the cash up front, otherwise it doesn't work. This is a credit card. You just charge it now, and then you pay it back later. That's fine.
It was like maybe 8 legendaries.
It's let me look at the list.
I mean, eventually it was all legendaries once you played the Golden Monkey.
Once you played the Golden Monkey,
Okay,
that's true.
fair enough.
Okay, so I'm actually thinking of maybe the TGT era before Elise, with. Let's see. Let me find the Kit Kats list.
You're not
this
thinking
is
of
the
one where you
listing.
spend all your armor and it does damage to the board.
No, that's
are you?
Reckless Flurry. No.
No.
Let's see.
We got Alex Straza. We got Grommash. We got Ragnaros. We got Sylvanas Windrunner.
Oh, you're going way
Karen,
far back.
Karen Bloodhoof. And maybe Sheep Devil Sword dude? The 3-drop?
Master?
You're thinking way, way back. So I'm looking.
Yeah.
Kit Kat Season 17 Control Warrior had Grom, Harrison. You forgot about Harrison, didn't you?
Oh, I did.
Thorison,
Yeah.
Justicar, Sylvanas, Dr. Boom, Alex Straza, and Ysera.
Okay,
That
so
is
that's a little
8.
later.
Yes.
I don't. Did we still call that Wallet Warrior? I guess. Yeah.
It had 8 legendaries in it in 2015. That was expensive. That's a lot of money.
And legendaries were harder to come by in
No, that's true.
2015 too, because we
Because
didn't
you could get duplicates.
Yeah, not to mention
know all
the
about
epic brawls as well, which you needed 2 of. The big game hunter. It was a very expensive
true.
deck. It
Yeah,
cost a lot
I
of
remember
money.
like I
The
wasn't
shield
able
slams
to
are
play
epics.
control at all. Yeah, I wasn't able to
Yeah.
play control at all until after that first rotation, because like I was missing like all the things like shield slams and brawls and light bombs and everything that you needed in order to be able to play an actual control deck.
Yeah.
It was a sad time for me.
Well, we fixed it. Except
We
there are
did.
kind of other things holding control back right now, but Cora's gonna fix it. Those. It's fine.
Cora's
we
got
have
it
to-
under control. We're good.
It's
I just need to
all
play a
right.
couple months. We're good.
By the way,
We've made it this far. We can do a couple more months.
the card from Alterac that I was most excited to play with, that I couldn't wait to play with, I did look it up because I'm that kind of person. It was the Kurtrus Hero. Nailed it. Still like that card. I like hitting things. Which is kind of the point that it's a good segue with Hit It Very Hard. Kurtrus does that, except he can go face, and he does quite frequently for a lot of damage.
I think come 4-set meta, Kurtrus is not going to stay 6 for very long.
No.
It's so.
Well, Expendable Performers is rotating, right? So
It is.
That's
Kurt's,
not why.
Kurt don't care. Fellfire Deadeye rotating. Expendable Performers rotating. Kurt don't care. Kurt nutty. That's 6 mana is very ambitious for that card. So it's a lot of the hero cards. If you want to build a deck without them in the next meta, the way to do that is artificial intervention and not natural intervention, because there's going to be the aggro DH decks that are running Drekthar right now play 1 card over 4 mana. Kurtrus, because he's crazy. So
Well, and Goth will probably have something to say too. So
I would like to say, by the way, that I find it hilarious that I was messing around with an aggro DH for a while, and now finally people are playing one like a month
just
later.
ahead of the curve. That's all.
Yeah, I'll talk about this effect at some point.
They also made a couple rounds of balance changes, which does seem somewhat relevant.
Totally.
Because you were trying to play it when Wild Paw Knoll was a 0 mana 4/5 rush. Can't do that.
Well, right. I mean, here's the thing: is you can end up in your deck building process think, oh, this isn't good, and it's like, well, no, it's not good in your meta, and so if you bring it back again later, it can end up, coming back. I think that's why deck building can be so challenging. Again, I'm working on a video for all this, but my card I'm most excited for is among yours here. It's hit very hard, and while I think it's great to have this as cheap removal, a way I really like playing Control Warrior right now is just including Silas Ashtongue, because there are some very nice Silas targets that you can hit. And
I was wondering where you're going with this, and I don't know why I wondered. I don't know why.
Ashtongue is a great thing to swap, even if you're not going to kill them outright. But now you have a backup from Shield Slam, because we don't have Skipper Smith. I mean, we have Armor Smith, but there's just not ways to really capitalize on it. So it's not like we can get ludicrous amounts of armor right now to reliably Shield Slam for the win. So you can just have that weapon you've been trading equipped for 5 attack, and then play 2 hit it very hards and go Silas Ashtongue, hit them for 25. It's great.
Seems good.
Yeah.
Or if you when you with a movable object equipped, you hit them for 26. Because they take the 1.
I mean,
irresistible force.
That may happen sometimes, but I don't know that really
The
matters.
movable object is the carryall card.
Unstoppable force.
They take 26, not 25, because that Ashtongue gets in there for that last point of damage. Yeah. But Steve, there's a new card that they released just in time for you to talk about in the show.
Yeah.
And we're going to get to it in a second. Before we take a pit stop and remind Edelweiss the card that she couldn't wait to play with was Arcane Brilliance.
Look, I didn't say it was going to be good.
I'm glad you didn't.
I will keep with that tradition, because I'm not convinced that this is a good card. But I will not be able to help myself as soon as the set drops. So Mita Pure Light is the new Priest Legendary. 6 mana 4/6 Divine Shield Lifesteal with a Death Rattle. Shuffle a fragment into your deck that resummons Mita when drawn. I will fully admit this is probably not good. Okay, I am an unrepentant priest main who has come to love Quest Priest, though I really, really shouldn't. It is not a great deck, and I've spent way too much time trying to make it a good deck. But this is something that in a control priest, I think is still fine, right? Like we are playing, first of all, Zarella Hero, right? Which is going to draw a Holy which is going to trigger Spirit Guide a second time. So Spirit Guide's going to draw a Holy and a Shadow spell out of your deck. This card that gets shuffled in is a Holy spell. So it's not going to happen all the time you run other Holy spells. There's a non-zero number of times that you will get that again when those cards trigger, right? And even like right now you're playing like Undying Disciple usually as like the third 6-drop in Quest Priest. It's not great. It doesn't do enough by the time that you're getting it down. Usually 3 damage across the board is okay, but it's generally like you want to be playing a Light Shower Elemental instead because you need to heal. It doesn't really do enough to clear the board off. They can play around it. This just kind of slots in there because you need to play generally need to play 3 5-drops and 3 6-drops. Usually, if you care about finishing the quest, there's some builds that don't. There's some builds that just use it as card draw, but generally, if you care about sharding people, you generally need 3 6-drops. So I could see it just slotting in there without really losing anything. and then it doesn't have taunt, but it doesn't necessarily need taunt as long as you're not actually dead on board the turn that you play it, right? Because if you're not dead on board the turn you play it, this is going to heal you for at least 8, probably, right? Unless your opponent has hard removal, in which case it wasn't going to be doing much for you anyway. So I think that it works fine in Quest Priest, and I'm looking forward to using it. It is probably not going to be the thing to make Quest Priest a tier 1 deck. I will say that with eyes wide open, but I am a broken human who loves playing expensive Priest legendaries. I will probably craft this in Golden because I am that broken. I'm not paying the $7. We didn't talk about the fact that there's going to be a $70 all Golden bundle for Nixia's Lair. I'm not doing that. I am not Shamu, but I might have to craft this in Golden just to, be consistent.
Okay, but here's my question.
Yeah.
So we have Mida. Is there going to be a Mima as well in the set? Is that?
Yeah, that's the older version. That's the grandmother.
Okay.
I don't know. Maybe.
I like where you're going with that. I like the idea. So this card is gonna be really annoying and feels very priesty. And like I don't know, if I'm an aggro deck and I can't kill the priest that turn, this card is a game ender. Like, it's just 4 free life a turn plus a bunch of trades. And imagine trying to trade into this thing. It seems impossible. Trading into this is just not a thing that you're ever going to do as an aggro deck. Because if you do that, you're kind of just giving up. It's very, very hard to kill. It's very annoying. It just guaranteed life every turn. Is this archetype defining? No. This would have been really, really powerful back in the day in Entomb Priest. In League of Explorers or whatever. We're many years past that. But is this going to get thrown into a deck with Spirit Guides in it? Absolutely it is. It's absolutely going to get in there. And I know that Light Shower Elemental is a taunt that also heals you. But this is harder to kill, is not just a one-time heal. And it keeps coming back. It's just an annoying value minion that keeps coming back in a class that actually wants a Waxadread. So, I don't know. How do you stop it? It's fine.
And like Chad is saying, well, why would you play this instead of Light Shower? You're not. This is a why not both, right? Like, you're never playing this instead of Light Shower. Like, Light Shower is always going in the deck first. But and I mean, realistically, this is probably Reliquary Prime, right?
Yeah, something like that.
Where it's going to it's either going to win you the game or it's going to completely not matter, one or the other. There's no middle ground there. And I'm just hoping that it's a little bit tilted to the side of winning the game.
Oh no. Someone just pointed something out that I'm not thrilled about. Which is the fact that you can get this off the rogue, discover a death rattle from another class.
Oh, you can also get this out of Call of the Grave in Priest, right? So you don't even necessarily need to play this in the deck. You can get this out of Call of the Grave, and if you trigger the death rattle, it'll just shuffle the fragment in immediately. So that'll probably happen a fair amount.
And someone's definitely going to build a deck with it's not Spellstone, but the tradable card, and just end up with a full board of these. I'm sure there'll be a Golden video of that.
Oh, and then you get to play the card that replays the cards from other classes that you played, so you get more of them back in Rogue.
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that'll be annoying. Yeah.
It looks fun. It looks like a fun card. I do think that it will be impactful when you're able to play it as a mid-game threat, and also it doesn't completely end the game if the aggressive deck can actually finish the game that turn. You don't just slam it and win. If this had taunt, you would just play it, and the aggro decks would just stop playing the game if they did not have an aim shot in hand that turn. That's not fun. This allows for some sort of board tension and game tension, but if this gets to live for one turn and the priest gets to live for one turn, the tide of the game is gonna really move in a way that is very much a classic Hearthstone dynamic. So I like the design here. It will be this is a solid card. All right. This is I'm going to call it a filler support card. You're not building around this. It is not the thing that you need to make a deck exist. It could fall out of some lists, but it could stay in some lists, and when it's good, I could totally see it being good enough in a lot of games.
Yeah. And if it doesn't have taunt, because if it had taunt, it would be absolutely broken.
It'd be stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Divine Shield does a lot of work.
Yep.
I'm actually more and more terrified of this post-rotation because all of the primes will fall out of the reconnaissance pool. And suddenly
yeah.
you'll see this a lot.
Yeah. Call of the Grave will get a lot better too, because there's going to be a lot of death rattles that are going to go out.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So
another death rattle card, but on a buff that you've got here. You have for card you're scared of Spirit Mount.
Yeah.
Interesting to hear about that.
I'm just scared of Shaman getting more spell damage than they already have. Right? Like they already have access to a ton of spell damage. And this is spell damage that you can't easily remove off the board. Because the mount is also going to have spell damage. So you're already having to spend resources dealing with whatever spell damage they put on the board, which is already annoying to deal with when you have, when they're putting like, Phoenixes and they're putting a whole bunch of Novice Sappers and everything else on the board. And now there's going to be this one that you're going to have to kill twice to eliminate that spell damage. Like usually, yes, you're dead, right? Like a lot of times when they're putting that much spell damage, you're dead, but you're not always, right? Like there are games where they can put a bunch of stuff and put you to 5 and then make you deal with it, right? And sometimes you can heal out of that, sometimes you can't. But it's going to I think it's going to make the Shaman just like a little bit more flexible, especially if they're like freezing the board. They put this on top of the, one of the frozen minions, or they put it on top of the Snowfall Guardian or something like that. It worries me and maybe it doesn't matter because they've already got so much spell damage that like what's one more, but it does kind of make it a little nervous going, with the way that Burn Shaman is already as kind of strong as it is.
Yeah, and I'm thinking about maybe you get this off of, one of your gain a spell cards in Quest Shaman, and you double Spirit Mount on a Zapper or something, and suddenly you've got 3 spell damage. It's a little spooky.
Yeah, 3 spell damage on double spells. That'll be a good time.
So I can kind of see the Quest Shaman payoff if you generate it, but Quest Shaman doesn't need a lot of help getting payoff killing people after the quest is done.
Yeah.
This card is the cross-section of 2 cards that I'm not scared of. It's not quite Kobold Geomancer, and it's not quite Rune Dagger. It's right in the middle of those 2, which is, if Burn Shaman was the kind of deck of you play a spell damage minion on curve and leave it on the board and then do a little extra every turn, I totally see it. That's not the vibe of that deck. That deck is play some broken freezy stuff and then kill you in 1 to 2 big hits. So I am less concerned about 2 mana plus 1 spell damage. It is a little bit more annoying to kill. Right, you could use this to play a Serpentine Portal on curve or whatever, but that deck doesn't have a lot of burn spells it actually wants to play on curve. Most of them are just you save them for later, like maybe with a Frostbite into a Serpentine, something like that, I guess. But
you got the ones that you need to play to get the multicaster, pumped up, right?
If this had a spell school, this would be awesome.
Portal early, yeah.
Yeah, like Portal is often your 3-drop. Frostbite you can play on curve, but you'd rather have a Sleep Breaker. Like, Portal you can play on curve. So, like, if you stick the Sleep Breaker and then you play this and a 1-mana spell or something, like, I could kind of see it. But I'd be surprised if this made the cut in current Burn Shaman.
Yeah, I definitely have to make a spell damage Shaman that just plays like Trog in this, just because playing Trog into a 2-mana buff is always solid.
Annoying 1/2s, yes.
Until your opponent makes a Brass Wing out of thin air, and then where are you?
Yeah, well.
I don't envision too many people have a contingency plan for that situation right now. It just doesn't... It seems irresponsible to plan for it.
You gotta be prepared.
But what if they Cenarian Ward into Brass Wing? Oh no. That's not even a Discover an 8-drop.
Yeah.
No. It just... Yeah.
I just praised Yogg a lot, that's all.
And Scenarios, I guess.
Yeah, I guess Scenarios.
Well, the card I'm scared of is what some people are referring to as Acolyte of Pain. I don't think it's Acolyte of Pain, but it's still pretty good. We've got Whelp Bonker. It's a 3-mana 1/5. Frenzy and Honorable Kill. Draw a card. So I really like this, and it was tempting to put as my card I can't wait to play with. but it is a little spooky. Once we do get into a more, minion combat sort of meta again, that you can just have this repeatable card draw, and they are pushing more buffs and things. This is going to be pretty sweet with the warrior, 1 mana spell, give a minion +2/+1 and rush. I imagine that happening a lot, where you just on 4, hit something for 3 and draw 2 cards. Like, that sounds insane. I think for any kind of, buff deck, right? For paladin, for warrior, this can do a lot of work, and it can just be a sort of play it on curve in something that's more controlling, because you want the card draw and to be able to deal with, 1/1s from a face hunter or something. We'll see, just how good it is for decks that maybe don't have buffs, but I think it has a ton of potential, just as like a thing with a big butt that you can throw down to maybe do something with the board, draw you a card, and if you could draw more than 1 card, you're super happy.
And 3 drops with 5 health, those have been problematic in the past.
Oh yeah.
Like we've like Evil Miscreant used to be 5 health, Shadow Jeweler Hanar used to be 5 health, like, and those both had to get nerfed, and those were not cards that were trading a lot, right? So it's going to be pretty easy to at least get 1 card off of this. I think getting to it's a little bit easier to get honorable kill off than I thought it was going to be at the start of this expansion. It's a little bit harder than I think it would be if it was just, getting damaged like Acolyte of Pain is, but I don't think it's unreasonable to think that you're probably going to get 2 cards out of this on average against anything that plays minions. And that's a good number of cards for a deck that wants it. I mean, not that we're really at a loss for card draw right now, but there are some decks that could use a little bit more, that want to play onto the board. And if this is another step in that, what Cora was saying about putting, enabling more board-based strategies, this is a board-based way to get card draw. So that's good. I worry about the 5 health a little bit, but we'll see what happens.
I think there are going to be situations where you get Soul Rended or Shadow Blasted here and you're sad, but I don't know. It's a weird card.
It's a big breakpoint, though. Like,
yeah, I think this is going to get you a card more than it doesn't.
Yeah.
I wonder how much play Acolyte would see these days. Like, I think that is a question. The Aug Merchants help a lot, and the Aug Merchants are okay here, but 1 attack is, like, kind of sketchy for a 3-drop.
If it stays at 1 attack.
But if you buff it, you're a lot less likely to trigger HK, right? I don't know how likely we are to get the HK breakpoints if we buff this, and I don't know how useful it is if you don't buff it. So I'm wondering where that tension lands us, because I can easily see the fail case where you put a Hand of Edel on this, and they have a bunch of 2/2s, and then you're done with drawing cards. And maybe that's enough. I mean, it's just a big butt thing that drew you 1 card, like, maybe that's enough. But maybe it's not. Would we run this in Paladin over other cards? I am less sure about that.
I think it's definitely better in the classes that have multiple buffs, where you can, adjust the number in a particular way, like playing the Steed on this, which just gives it +1 attack, right? So you can HK 2s, or you can do Hand of Edel to hit 3s. You've got that sort of flexibility. And, 2s and 3s are really the main healths you want to hit, right? 1, 2, and 3. If you imagine you do sort of your lower stuff on this, like you don't particularly want to put Blessing of Authority on this. You're not really getting any HKs there. But if it's a sturdy minion that gets you a card draw and then sticks around so that you can Blessing of Authority, sure. I like that it's a neutral card draw that is same as multicaster, like better for some classes than for others. And this is better for different classes than multicaster was good for.
Yeah, and I would say, like, you hit this with like a Bannerman once, right? So it goes up to 2. Like, Wing Commander Mulverick is a card that sees play, right? So I don't think that buffing it to 2 is going to throw it out of a lot of breakpoints, because it seems if that card gets enough value that it sees play fairly often, especially, it's going to be meta dependent. But I think that, getting a little bit of buff, like, yeah, you don't want to throw like blessing of authority on there. That's a little bit too much. But you may not even want to like hit it with multiple buffs, but even just getting one buff on it, because you want to get this out of your hand early anyway, right? Like you go Bannerman on 3 into the Sun 4. And
I wonder if Librams runs this. I don't know. It might be too much. Because Librams has
a little bit more draw in that deck.
I mean, Librams has the most flexibility of, okay, I want to hit this number because of Libram Wisdom.
Well, you can take it up. You can take it up, but you can't take it down like my Barber says.
Sure.
Yeah. I am curious if they're like where the tension between I want to make this bigger and then do I stop being able to draw cards, but also if I get 2 cards off this, I'm pretty happy. If this is 2 cards, then we're thrilled. So, I don't know. I expect this to see a lot of play early, and I expect this to see a lot of efforts over the course of the next standard year. I don't know how successful those efforts would be. It's a lot harder to read cards with this kind of text and see where they're going to go. But the card that I'm scared of... Oh, wait, hold on. Edelweiss was scared of Shadowcrafter Scabs.
That seems justified.
They did nerf it, so I'm going to call that a hit. I'm going to call that a winner.
The card is scary.
The card I was scared of was Windchill, which actually has ended up being fine, and Sleepbreaker is actually just better because Windchill by itself is only okay. But I'm glad that Target Freeze hasn't ended up being the problem. It's actually the global freeze the problem, but Snowfall Guardian I didn't have listed here. So, let's talk about the card that I am scared of. I am scared, but not for the reasons you think. Of Curse of Agony. 1 mana, shuffle 3 agonies into the opponent's deck. They deal fatigue damage when drawn. It is a shadow spell. So the dream, the thing that you have probably heard about if you're in Discords or Twitters or internets, whatever, is you go Little Tamsin, and then 2 of these, which means 4 of these, which means you shuffle in 12 fatigues or agonies or whatever into your opponent's deck. That goes up to 78 damage. 78 is more than 30. Most people only have 30 life. 35 you play a hero, 40 if it's Rokara. 78 is more than that number. That should be enough, right? Except they have to draw them. It's into their deck. So it's like bombs, but purple, and worse, and no Dr. Boom. However, quite good against decks that draw their entire deck. Extremely powerful against Garrote. Extremely powerful against Mozaki. Against Fatigue, Warlocks, or Handlocks, you gotta be careful. Because you gotta kill them the turn you do this, because otherwise, you finish their quest, then they play Big Tammy, then they tap and draw the rest of them, then you die. You don't want that, and don't do that. You gotta be careful.
Well, you kill the owls,
that.
because the owls don't run the quest. Well, sometimes they do, but most of the time they don't.
Yes. You kill the owls, but the owl doesn't have to draw their whole deck, right? Like, they get pretty close. They get pretty close to the end, but pretty close to the end doesn't matter, because the last 2 ticks are what kill them. The last, 2 or 3. So they have to make sure they draw the whole thing. It's a very particular counter.
But they're also hitting themselves in the face on the way down, right? So you don't have to hit.
Owl is less, somewhat, but a lot less. Backfire and taps, but yeah, it's could be good against Warlock unless you partially kill them and then they Demon Seed and they fully kill you. You don't want that to happen.
That would be.
So this is a very strong counter to Garrote, particularly, which has already been nerfed 3 times, and this is the 4th one. And Mozaki Mage, couldn't happen to a nicer troll. However, the fear that I have is that this card will be relevant post-rotation. Because this card is only good if people are reliably drawing their deck by turn 8 or 9. If that is happening in New Standard, and this card is good and relevant and has a use, I am scared of that meta. That is my fear. I am not afraid of this card existing. I am actually kind of happy that this card exists as a safety valve for draw your deck combo, for Warlock to play specifically. If you're against aggro, card does less than nothing. It is a waste of a hand slot, because they draw it and they take a couple points damage and they kill you, or they don't draw it and then they kill you. If you're against something like Priest or Warrior, slower decks, they just heal it as they take it because they don't play a lot of draw. You have to get to the very end of the deck and play them all at once, in which case you're probably playing Demon Seed. Just kill them with the Demon Seed. You don't need this. This is only if the opponent is drawing a bunch of cards really fast. If that is reliably happening to the point of turn 8 or 9 fatigue, I don't want that anymore. So I hope this card is a highly questionable tech inclusion in New Standard, and not a core part of the meta, because I would be scared of any meta where this is really strong.
Yeah, I guess theoretically there's some world in a 4-set meta where they're playing. I mean, Altar of Fire isn't rotating, where they want to do things like play. Isn't there? There's still a minion that draws each player a card or something.
Prize Vendor, which is rotating out.
Oh, that is rotating.
I believe that's a Dark Fair card. Yeah.
So I mean, if there's enough card draw, maybe there's a world where you're playing Altar of Fire and you're shuffling this in and just kind of putting them on a clock. I imagine Quest Warlock is still probably better than that. But I guess there's a world where that could be an alternate win condition. I do like that this is an additional tech and wild against Ice Block. That makes me happy, because then they take the damage on their turn. People were playing Curse of Rafam in wild before the last Ignite Mage nerf came down, just to be able to get through an Ice Block. So this is a little bit better of a way to do that. But yeah, I think that I don't want to see this, because if we're seeing this, much like me playing at a Conjure Druid, if we're seeing this, then the meta's not in a place where we want it to be. But I'm glad that we have it as a safety valve.
Yeah, I guess I just like it as a tech card, and I hope that it's not more than that. That it just stays a tech card as sort of like you want to draw your deck? Nice try. And if that's enough to ward people off of stuff like Mozaki Mage, then all the better.
Yeah, we just don't want this to be like the thing that you want to do, like bombs were, right? Like that just got to be too much by the end. But I think that, and it worst comes to worst, if it does be the best thing, right? It's only in Standard for a year, not 2 years, like bombs were.
Yeah.
Sorry, I got a work text. I'm gonna mark this down. So yeah, so there's been a lot of discussion around this card, a lot of the idea that this is powerful. I do think that the threat of it is powerful, and I hope that's enough to shape the meta away from decks that want to consistently draw their whole deck. And it's, could be something that makes Fatigue Warlock, for example, a little better, because a lot of the counters to that deck are Garrote Mozaki decks that turbo draw. But it's just, I'd be happier if that kind of strategy gets a little worse. However, now we get into the sadder section. Cards that I want to be good, but aren't. Tooth of Nefarian, 3-mana rogue spell, deal 3 damage, honorable kill, discover a spell from another class. Okay, so it goes face. If you make the text in the honorable kill box happen, this is a good card. If the text always happened, this would be a good card. But it really, really doesn't. It super doesn't. If they made it just kill a minion, not honorable kill, this would be a pretty good card. But it doesn't say that. It has to kill something with 3 health, and otherwise it is a bad card. It is 3 mana, deal 3 damage. That's bad. We don't play that. And so...
And if it's killing a minion, it's not going face. And why would you want it to not go face?
Sure, well, discover a spell from another class. That's really good text. I want to do that. We're losing Wand Thief. I want to do this thing and scam some people, because discovering spells from other classes is really good, even without a mana reduction. You can get all sorts of crap that Rogue is not supposed to have access to, and it's really enjoyable. But this isn't going to work often enough for me to run it, and that makes me sad, because I want to do this. It was 2 mana deal 2, even with the HK text. Totally fine. Good card. Totally okay. 3 mana deal 3. Hard to justify. Like, this is Seal Fate, but no guaranteed Galakron invoke. Like, if it was a conditional Galakron invoke on Seal Fate, really, really bad. Really bad.
Yeah, my reaction to this was the same that I had against Deliverance, which is like, why am I paying 3 mana for a Holy Smite when I don't even want the minion half the time? So, I mean, at least the payoff is a little bit better, but it's still the same thing. It's like, why am I paying more to only do the thing sometimes?
It's fine. All of these will become super viable when we get to that rotation, more board-centered meta, and they nerf Wild Paw Caverns to 3/3s.
Okay, so if they did that, I would actually think about running this, and then probably not do it anyways.
I might think about running Deliverance at that point too.
By the way,
But that's Magical Christmas Land right now.
it is. By the way, the card that I wanted to be good that isn't. This is fun. Brasswing.
And it was good in that one instance.
It's just I've only ever seen it off of Cenarian Ward.
Yeah.
I do actually think the card is good enough. There's just no large Paladin deck that can exist. But when Librams rotate, Brasswing on curve is a good card. We just have to get there and then have to kill some stuff.
Oh, yeah,
it's
serious
good.
Primordial Drake vibes.
Look,
Yeah.
in a 4-set meta, when we're playing Kazakhstan Paladin, and we need to have dragons in the deck, then you play Brasswing. That's when you play it.
Okay, I'm down for some copium. This is an overdose. You can't. It's too much.
Listen, I've been spending too much time on Sean Smoker's Twitter this week. So
He's got to be just happier than anybody right now, right?
I actually just tweeted at him, "Is it your birthday today?"
It must be.
Yeah, when the mage card got revealed.
Yes.
And I'm gonna break his heart in a few minutes.
Yeah, we've got a lot of dragon themed stuff in the cards you want to be good, but isn't. My pick is Spawn of Deathwing, which it's just, it's not the time and place. I totally could see this card maybe popping off with the new core, but certainly right now, like Zoo just doesn't exist. And I think an important difference between Spawn of Deathwing and the dragon that did the same effect in Hunter previously was that Dragon Hunter deck was pretty aggressive and had burst damage. And as we've said, Zoo's problem right now is you don't have enough burst damage. And also there's not enough discard payoffs for you to reliably get an effect off that discard a random card. You've got the hand one, but they started making targeted discard for a reason, and then this one is back to being random. So it can be a huge tempo swing, but I just don't think we're in the place right now for this effect.
Well, discard effects are good if you don't have anything in your hand to discard. Then they're fine, right?
Yeah,
but I don't know that this is the kind of card that Zoo would want necessarily. Because
mid-rangey Zoo.
Dragon Hunter existed by taking Face Hunter, slowing it down a little bit, and giving it some beef. And this is beef, right? If you want to go a little bit slower, but have bigger bodies that don't get blown out by Soul Rend, which this very specifically avoids, then you're kind of happy with that. This dodges Goldshire Null, that sort of thing. It's the random discard instead of targeted discard. Maybe they got spooked. Hand of Gul'dan is rotating, but maybe they got spooked by just how samey that stuff felt. This does feel like a step backwards in that regards, but a 6/6 deadly shot in a deck that's likely going to play minions on turn 1 through 4, so you can kind of guide where this goes. That's a decent rate. It's absolutely a decent rate. You're probably not playing this in some kind of powerful late game strategy that needs specific cards, but if you're just playing minions on turns 1 through 5 or 6 or whatever, this is pretty good at fighting for board. I think it's pretty good there.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a matter of where does it go, right? 5 mana is still expensive. I mean, it's still a 5 mana 6/6, but 5 mana is still kind of expensive for an aggressive deck, right? Maybe in a 4-set meta, it's not, right? Maybe in a 4-set meta...
Face Hunter plays Trampling Rhino, right? It's playing a 5-mana minion that kills something and gives you a threat is okay, and Face Hunter's been doing that for a year.
Yeah, but, I mean, Trampling Rhino is a 5 mana 7/6 every time you play it that also does face damage and also kills a minion. So it's that's good. The level that we're at, right? I don't think we're quite there, but maybe we are, right? I mean, it's also a random minion instead of a targeted minion, right? If your opponent has a board full of 1/1s and one big taunt, and you want to get rid of the taunt and you kill a whelp, you're going to be sad too.
Yeah, I will boldly say this is worse than Trampling Rhino, but that's okay. Okay. Yeah. By the way, Edelweiss, the card that you wanted to be good but isn't, Humongous Owl. Now, for the purposes that you were going to play it, true. For the purposes of Tamsin's Phylactery, less true.
Yeah.
I thought that was a priest card. I was very wrong.
Not yet. We'll see what happens.
see.
We'll see. But okay, Steve, tell us about a card that you want to be good that isn't, because you're gonna Sean Smoker's birthday present. Come on.
Yeah,
Let him have it.
I'm sorry, Sean. I'm sorry, Sean. But so, and you know I like the big flashy things, right? I'm a control player. I like cards with 10s in the corners. That's my wheelhouse. So Drakefire Amulet is a 10 mana tradable fire spell for mage that says discover 2 dragons and summon them. I'm not saying that this is going to be unplayable, and you're certainly going to see this off of Rune of the Ancients, or whatever else is going to, or I guess the Prime is still in standard for another month or so, right? Like, it will get generated enough that it will probably make a difference. But like the thing is that the dragons that are in standard that are available for mage are Koldara Drake, and then just basically a bunch of stats on a stick, right? Like, you'll probably get 2 8/8s out of this, but the 2 8/8s that you're going to get are not going to have rush, are not going to have taunt. It's going to be 10 mana, make 2 big things. You probably are already winning if you can do that, right? Like, or maybe it's like a stalemate and you're both throwing big bombs and your opponent's going to be able to counter it at that point. But I think that the number of times that this is actually going to be significant in terms of you winning the game from you putting it in your deck and playing it on purpose is probably going to be a lot less often than a lot of people think that it's going to be when they read the card.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of nice stats. There's a few things that you'll be happy to see rotate away, like Crimson Hothead, Circus Amalgam, and Onyx Mage Scribe. But it definitely needs a meta where you want to do the whole, okay, I make some big things. Let's try and close out the game with big things. Runaway Blackwing is probably the best hit. But you have to be prepared for getting random stuff if you're going to be doing the objective to play this out.
Yeah, I mean, Sleepy Dragon's an okay hit too. Like, it's a 4/12 taunt. That's not bad.
Yeah.
But like those are going to be kind of the best ones, and a lot of them, like, you only have like, I think it's like a 17% chance to hit any particular dragon off of the Discover. I mean, I guess you get 2 shots at it. So maybe
there's a lot of
bit
8/8s and 4/12.
Yeah, there's a lot of 8/8s that don't have taunt or rush, that are just going to sit there while your opponent beats the crap out of you, right? So that's kind of the problem. Like, if you can play this and not die, you probably didn't need to play it. You probably were already winning.
So the pool is, let's see.
There's I believe there are 17 dragons that are available to discover for mage.
11.
11?
No,
11.
there's 17.
No, there's 17.
Where am I? Oh, so
There's
post
all the
rotation.
neutrals.
Oh,
Post rotation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So
yeah.
I'm filtering out dragons that are rotating, looking exclusively towards next meta where there will probably be other dragons. There'll probably be different dragons. Deathwing, Alex, Mali, Onyxia, Sleepy Dragon, Ysera, Kazakusan, Nozdormu, Koldara Drake, Nixian Warder, Brightwing. So, there's one of these that has text. It's Sleepy Dragon. Onyxia makes some 1/1s, and Koldara Drake, if you have mana left over, somehow you can ping twice. Somehow. Yeah.
So
unexciting.
yeah, I mean, it's in a world where, okay, this is kind of your end game is like play Drakefire Amulet and then play more off of the bird. But probably your hero power is what you want to use as a win condition instead.
You know, every time that you play this off of Clumsy Courier the Bird, you're going to get two Bright Wings. You know that's going to happen every single time. It's not even a maybe.
It is
you lose the
definitely
Discover when they get played that way.
It is a stat bomb, though. Like, it's so Courier for 2 big dragons. Like, if you have some way as a mage to have a good turn 6 and deal with their stuff, and then you play this, you're gonna have you can plan on a reasonably large board. Reasonably large. Assuming you whiff on Sleepy Dragon, but you whiff on the low roll, then you're probably gonna have some 8/8s. Alright, 4, 5, and 2 8/8s. It's a good deal for 7 mana. But none of them have taunt. And you gotta hope that's enough. And also, you have to be a mage that wants to do this. Usually, right now, in Wildfire Mage with Courier and Rune, you play the Rune to kill some stuff. You need the Rune to kill some stuff. You don't have the time to sit there and just make some bodies. So,
yeah,
the fact that it limits to mage and neutral only, and the fact that you don't get the battle cries, is pretty rough. And it makes the card... I think I'm in the same boat as you, Steve. I want this to be good so bad.
Yeah.
But... yeah,
it's going to be
not
sweet
sure.
when it goes off randomly. Like, it's going to be amazing.
I think I know the maybe stealth thing that could help it, which is that it has tradable and it makes Deepwater Evoker so much better.
Yeah.
Because if you play a true big spell mage, you don't include wildfires, and your sort of like lowest cost spell is Fire Sale, getting another thing to give you that huge chunk of armor on Deepwater Evoker could be really nice. You know, maybe you can actually run like the Celestial Ink set or something too. I don't know. It's something that we just can't really grasp right now.
Celestial
It
Ink.
looks pretty bad. Pretty bad.
I got it. Okay, listen, hear me out. Okay, this is what we're going to do. So we run Arcane Brilliance. We run 2 copies of those, right?
No,
we keep getting it back, and then that's our draw engine.
Steve, your friends and I are here to talk to you about your copium usage. This is an intervention.
I'm just looking on the bright side of life. That's what Monty Python told me to do.
Yeah. It very bright. Way too bright.
It worked out for them, you know?
All right. Well, we're into the over-underrated cards, and then we've got a few fun ones later of cards that we don't know what is going on. So, Steve, tell us about your over-underrated card. You think Lightmaw Netherdrake is underrated. Tell us what this card is.
Yeah. What? So, I mean, I think everyone had the original reaction, like, oh, the Duskbreaker's back, you know?
Yeah. What is the text on this card?
It is, if it's a format of 4/4 dragon, if you're holding a whole battle cry, if you're holding a holy spell and a shadow spell, deal 3 damage to all other minions. So there was kind of this roller coaster of emotions with this card, where it's like, oh boy, Duskbreaker's back. Oh wow, that's never going to happen. And then I kind of, you know, I think a lot of people are like, well, you're not going to have a holy spell and a shadow spell in your hand at the same time. And I am here, internet, to tell you that is going to happen. It's going to happen fairly often because you have cards that will draw holy spells and shadow spells out of your deck that you run in Priest now, in the Priest that wants this card. So I think that it's going to be active on 4 fairly often, because you do run a fair number of holy spells and shadow spells. And even if it's not hard to get that to happen with things like Thrive in the Shadows, with Spirit Guide, with Zarella after the Spirit Guide has died.
You have Renew, you have Palm Reading. It's very easy to go get the one you're missing.
Exactly. So I think that this being a card that can go off on 4, and like, this could replace Zarella, like Little Zarella, in some of the lists that run her, right? Like, I could see even Miracle Priest potentially might run this instead of Zarella. Maybe instead of the 1, right? Because, like, when you're playing Zarella in Miracle Priest, you generally don't need it to do more than 3. When you want it to save you to get to the Miracle turn, you generally want it to be able to do about 3 damage. And that happens on turn 5 with Zarella right now, unless you get it off of the Insight, right? Because you still need, I mean, maybe, very rarely does it happen on 4 because you have a Desperate Prayer. But most often that happens on 5, right? And so this would be, you don't necessarily want to run more minions in there. I don't know if you run 2 of them, but it might be the kind of thing that would go off more reliably and something that you can do on 4. Because 4 is kind of an awkward turn. 3 and 4 are a little bit awkward because you don't really want a palm reading yet. You don't want a palm reading until the turn before you go off. You don't really have a whole lot to do. You don't want to be spending a lot of spells because the spells are fuel for you to be able to go off. So it might be something that can kind of help you kind of stall a little bit better than Zarella does. I don't know if it does, but certainly in like Quest Priest, I can see that finding a 4 spot, and in Control Priests going forward, because Spirit Guide is going to be in the same year with this card. so they're going to be together like peanut butter and jelly.
I'm less excited about this card on 6 than I am on 4. I think right now it's not going to be too hard to make it work on 4 if you wanted to, though I think the idea of Miracle Priest cutting Zyrel is insane. I've played against a lot of Miracle Priest lately, and that card does very rarely cost 4 mana and quite often does more than 3 and needs to do more than 3, so could easily see this being along for the ride. But post-rotation, we do lose a lot of the good help me turn this on cards. We lose Palm Reading and Renew. I imagine there will be more support. Remember that Cleric of Anshi is a card that exists, so you can heal in Cleric of Anshi and then go find something out of your deck to help make sure this works.
Yeah, we have the Dungeoneer too. Like the Dungeoneer hasn't seen any play, but that also is a card to get your Holy Spell. Well, I guess not. It's a spell. It does something if you get a Holy Spell, but it gets you a spell.
So the question is, can you reliably activate this on 4? If you can, card's great. Would not be surprised if you can consistently activate it on 4 both now and post-rotation.
Yeah.
Okay, I buy that. Edelweiss, thank you for making the noble sacrifice of picking this card to talk about. Ready? You ready?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm ready. So I picked basically to be contrarian Kazakusan, and I'm saying that it's underrated. I think that the treasures from duels, while obviously a bit slow, you can set up some pretty silly combos. Actually, with one of WickedGood's cards later, Horn of Rathian, which like targeted draws a minion from your deck, and if it's a dragon, summons a couple of 1/1 rushes. Like anything where you can make a spell deck with targeted minion draw, you could potentially set up to play a bunch of spells, drop Kazakusan on 8, and maybe go for like a Clockwork Decoy, Gnomish Knife sort of play. Or, there's silly things you could do with the Book of the Dead. I'm just thinking, maybe you don't play it exactly on curve, but I think you can set up some certain 2-card combos among the treasures that could be, pretty disgusting. Particularly if you're able to combine it with, something else in your deck. There's just a lot of ways to targeted draw this, and then maybe go from there. Oh wait, they removed the charge? Oh, never mind. It's terrible. What?
Oh, okay.
They removed the charge?
Forget the whole last 5 minutes.
How did I miss that?
There are a lot of these treasures that got rebalanced for standard, because I think that if you give Gnomish Army Knife charge in standard, then people just kind of die.
Yeah, I mean it's still good though, right? Like I don't even know that you need to get that fancy with it. I think you probably just put it in Big Druid, in Ramp Druid, right? Because like Ramp Druid generally, I mean, if you don't draw Guff, you die anyway. But if you draw Guff, you're gonna draw your deck, right? Sure. And like the whole mission statement of Ramp Druid is doing stupid things with too much mana. Mm-hmm. Like this kind of fits in that deck anyway. And sometimes you do like run out of threats.
Oh, absolutely. As a control warrior, sometimes I've beaten Ramp Druids because it's like, all right, I killed all the things, and now their deck is gone. The Guff hero power is a lot less good once your deck is gone and you already have 20 mana. Like it just doesn't do anything. So then you get 10
more cards and you get to draw 2 of them a turn. And when you're drawing 2 treasures a turn, that's better than drawing 1 treasure a turn, especially when you still have 18 mana left over to do whatever you want to do. So I don't see why this wouldn't just go in, because it just because it says if all minions are in your deck are dragons, if you have no minions left in your deck, then all your minions left in your deck are dragons. So it goes off. So I mean, you just kind of you don't want to play this too early anyway. If you're at any risk of going into fatigue, if you're at risk that that's not going to be enough, right? So this is kind of when you get into the mirror, or you get into something against a control warrior or an annoying priest that refuses to go away, right? Then you get a few more turns to be able to outlast them and just do ridiculous things along the way.
Yeah, it's actually a little funny that it's got that dragon text, because most of the time you sort of want your deck to be gone anyways. Or maybe you've just got some agonies in there and you want to replace them.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a world we enter at some point. But I mean, I like a lot of the treasures, particularly in the Ramp Druid scenario. Locusts, great. Embers of Ragnaros could, surprise people. Like you can pick stuff in a pretty, correspond to what you're trying to do sort of way. And I think it being neutral, there's kind of like fun ways to do this in lots of different classes. Like, I don't know if Rogue is ever able to do something with this, but being able to shadow step it could get a little silly.
Oh no.
I'm not any deck that's planning on drawing one treasure a turn and with a max cap of 10 mana. I am not concerned about here. The treasures are all right. So there are two types of treasures. There's Locust, and then there's the other ones. Locust ends the game. For those of you that don't know what that card does,
Embers of Ragnaros too.
That costs 10, and it's 3 shots, right? It's 3 rag shots. Locust is
10 mana's like a midnight snack for Ramp Druid. Like that's not
for Druid, but for every other class that has 10 mana crystals and 1 draw a turn instead of a button that lets you draw a second card and you have 20 mana already, it's that's I'm not as scared except of Locust. Locust is 8 mana, target thing, fill your board with 2/2 Locust. Target thing gets attacked by all of them, including face, unless they change that one too. And it has twin spell. So it means 14 damage twice, which is 28, which is a lot. So
I mean, even if they don't go face, right? Like you're that deep into the game. Like, are you going to be able to deal with another 2 waves of that twice? Like that late after a lot of the removal's gone? Probably not.
no,
Like
but you're going
eventually,
face.
only one of them needs to live, right? Only
But you're
one of
going
the waves
face.
needs to pick.
It doesn't. If you clear the first wave off the twin spell, then they play it again and they have board space. If you don't, they have 7 2/2s. They attack you.
Right.
So
exactly, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
It is unstoppable, and if you taunt, then they trade into the taunt and then locust you, and so it is guaranteed 28 damage over 2 turns. That is very powerful. The rest, the rest of the treasures are, you can draw a Wand of Disintegration and wipe the board unless they don't have a board to wipe. You can draw all sorts of random stuff that is powerful. They're cards they would never print. But are they enough to win you the game? I think most of the time, no. Except Locust.
I mean, this is Archivist Elysiana again, right? I mean, like, we're agreed on that. That's what this is, right? And the use case for Archivist Elysiana was giving you more turns of fatigue than your opponent and giving you stuff to do. And what the stuff is doesn't matter as much. Like, you would like it to end the game, but unless your opponent is also playing Elysiana or Kazakhstan, it doesn't really matter because you're getting 10 more turns into fatigue than they are.
Yes.
So, I mean, like, you would like it to be Locust and end the game, but even if not, like, the fatigue will get there, even if, as long as you're just not dying.
Yeah, it's great as an Elysiana.
I just want to gamble on some Quel'Dalar. And,
yes. But then you only get 8 cards, not 10. If you combine them, then you only get the 8.
It doesn't matter. You got 64 damage.
But you could have 78 with Agony, with Curse of Agony. What's 64?
Both?
64 is like nothing.
But you've replaced the agonies that they put in your deck. See, Wicked Good? That's
unless they know that you're going to do that, and then they wait for you.
Why would they know you were going to do that?
Because
no one ever sees the Kazakhstan coming. No one ever sees that coming.
I think there's a few better ones than you give credit for. I mean, it is Discover, so you can pick for the situation, right? If you need more clears, you can have more clears. If you need stickiness, you can take Canopic Jars. Something like Dr. Boom's Boombox can be pretty silly. I don't know if you would be playing this in Shaman, but that could be hilarious to either, double some of these spells or like use a note taker with some of them.
Okay. If we are completing the quest and then playing Kazakhstan, hats off to you. You've done it. You've had the greediest deck in the world. Double my spells. Not enough. I need more. It's would be.
But the thing is, like Elysiana, we would take like River Crocs and be fine, right? Like I would argue that the treasures, they may not be game winning. They're probably better than River Crocs.
Sure.
Average.
Yes. But if we had access to Dr. Boom Mad Genius in the standard, then Kazakhstan would be a great card. It's
we don't know what's in the next set. Maybe he's back. Pog form.
He's not back. I'm gonna take that. I'll take that bet right now. I'll bet you 2 packs that they're not reprinting Dr. Boom. Mad genius. You don't have to take that bet. This is not contractual.
I guess here's the thing, right? It is an Elysiana style card with far more cards. They're gonna help you actually close out the game than Elysiana gave.
Yeah,
I'm just arguing against
the way higher.
The card quality is higher. I don't think that many of them close out the game. I think if you are against a lot of decks and don't.
They probably do close out the game at the point of the game that you're playing it, which is after your opponent is exhausted all their removal because they know how many threats you're supposed to have, and all of a sudden you play Kazakhstan, and now all of a sudden you got 10 more.
Yeah. I mean, like, if you enter the both players are playing control decks that finish in Kazakhstan for extra fatigue stuff, right? If you basically take the Elysiana meta that we have, and instead people have Kazakhstan over Elysiana, you're more likely to be able to hit stuff that will help you close out the game with these treasures than you were with Elysiana.
Yeah.
For the most part, but you're talking about threats. Clockwork Assistant, maybe Grimmer Patron if you consider 3/3s a threat, maybe Bubba if they have a minion. Beastly Beauty gives you an 8/8 only if it attacks and survives against killing a minion. And there's Wax Rager, and there's Locust. I guess you could call Dr. Boom's Boombox a threat. Like Embers of Ragnaros, I don't know if we count that as a threat. Otherwise, it's just a bunch of damage or value, or some random Transformer removal cards.
I mean, Embers of Ragnaros is definitely a threat if you're in the end game where people are just sort of out of stuff, and like that represents potentially 24 damage if you can't stick something. But
if they play an Amulet of the Undying, and instead of drawing your Wand of Disintegration, you draw an Embers of Ragnaros, what do you do? How many Midas are you killing? Or even softening up. They have Divine Shield. They don't even care.
Can I offer you another scenario where this is actually reasonable?
Where you draw Locust and kill them?
Miracle Priest runs 2 copies of Draconic Studies.
Oh, no.
I don't like this.
Oh, no.
Oh, good.
And
1 mana
you only run
Kazakhstan.
4 minions and you draw them pretty quickly. So, yeah.
That's true.
I'm going to be sick.
That's going to be relevant.
Also, off of the priest dragon that gives you a random dragon to hand. It happens sometimes.
I'm less happy now than I was 5 minutes ago. Okay.
I'm sorry. This is what.
No, you're not.
I apologize. You knew what you were getting when you invited me on the show.
Okay, Hat, here, we'll talk about your card.
Okay.
Furious how.
We're going to talk about mine in a second.
Very different kind of card.
Very different kind of card. But first, okay. Card that you thought were over and underrated, Edelweiss. You thought that Magister Dawngrasp was underrated. You might have meant undertuned. And Frostwolf Warmaster you thought was overrated. That was correct, at least so far. By the way, card that I thought was underrated was Rokara, which was also quite undertuned. So, 5 armor was enough there. Dawngrasp needed a little bit more help. They both got there, in my humble opinion. Both powerful cards now. Alright. Furious Howl. 2 mana, Hunter Spell. Draw a card, repeat until you have at least 3 cards. So first of all, it is phrased this way because it will always draw you a card. It always cycles, 100% of the time. So even if you have 9 cards in hand and you draw this and you want a card, you can play it right away. Kind of scuffed tradable for 2 mana instead of 1. There are many people talking about you just lower the curve in Face Hunter, play this and refill, or you just play Quest Hunter and you spew a lot of cards out of your hand, and then you just play this for refill. All right. So first of all, I have played with and against Divine Favor. The main reason that I dislike Divine Favor is not just power reasons, it is design tension that leads to unfavorable results for both players. This card will sit in your hand or draw a single card way more often than you think. The first time that you have 2 Furious Howls and a Quick Shot in your hand, you are going to concede the game and delete the deck. It is just awful. Quick Shot existing makes this card worse. Because you want Quick Shot to have text instead of be 2 mana and 3 damage. The Dark Bomb is fine, but you want it to have text. We play Barak Kodobane. That draws 3 cards. For this to draw 3 cards, you have to have nothing, and you shouldn't be excited about having nothing. We play Warsong Wrangler, draw a card, so we can play Rhino. You don't want to cut that. Have you tried building Face Hunter with Drekthar? You summon a 1/1 and a 1/2. It's not very exciting. You don't want to do that. Adorable Infestation puts a card in your hand. If you're in Quest Hunter, Dragonbane Shot puts more Dragonbane Shots in your hand. You want to actually have resources. If you're playing the Dunbalder Bunker multicaster build, which I think you should be doing, then you are constantly holding one secret you can't cast because there's an explosive trap in play and a quick shot, and you want to die. It's terrible. That's already happening. So, Furious Howl is a one-off expectation that I'm going to run out of stuff and I need to be okay with that and have a backup plan. The correct thing to do is just play the good stuff and not need to run out. For this to work, you need to have redundancy. You need to have a Voracious Reader along with this, along with the Secret Passage, right? And that was the intention of Rogue decks when Secret Passage drew 5 and Voracious Reader drew 3 for 2 mana. Except we learned, no, you just put good cards that cost 4 or 5 in your deck and just play the good draw cards, like we have been doing. And there are plenty of good cards in Hunter right now that'll draw you a card. Warsong Wrangler sticking around. You can spring the trap if you want to do that. There are other ways to get value as a Hunter. Maybe you could play a really aggressive, low-curve deck if you have other ways to draw cards. But think about all the times you've had Ramming Mount in your hand. And it's just sitting there, and then they kill your minions. And you want to have something else to do. You need to have a card in your hand that does something. Furious Howl 2-mana draw card, that ain't it. Think about all the times in Face Hunter where you say, I'll just take a little bit of time to find more burn. You lose those games. Barak Kodo Bane you can get away with because it draws you quick shot and aim shot every time. What if instead of the quick shot it drew you Furious Howl? You would be furious. You would howl. That would describe you as the player. But it's not what you want to do. So, are we cutting the good cards for the promise of future good cards? Maybe, if we spend all of our cards right away. Or do we just keep doing what we're doing right now in Hunter, which is play cards that are already inherently valuable with incremental card draw? I think we do that. I think we do that thing. And then if there's a dream in the future of a really low curve Hunter deck that plays Furious Howl and some other TBD draw spell, then maybe, but you better hope the curve is low on that deck. You better hope you don't want to run Ramming Mount. Just top at a Doggy Biscuit, because conditional cards are the death of this card, unless you want to play 2-mana draw card, in which case, that's Novice Engineer with no body. It's double cost for a tradable. You want to do that? I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that.
So does this mean I need to retire my plan to start calling this card Ursine Favor?
No, you can still do that. That's okay. That's acceptable.
Okay, fair enough. I do think there's a use case in Quest Hunter, right? Because right now, like, that deck is going to incredible lengths to fit in multicaster, right? Like, it's putting in all kinds of stuff that you really don't want if you could help it in Quest Hunter. So I think by including that as a draw 2, which is basically what you're getting off of multicaster, even if you just get 2 cards off of it, if it means you get to cut a bunch of jank and improve the rest of your card quality in your deck by putting that in instead, I think that is a net positive for that deck. But yeah, in Face Hunter and any sort of aggressive deck, it probably doesn't belong.
And I could see it in Quest Hunter, though my experiences playing with Quest Hunter is that, like, you don't run out of stuff that much, especially with your Spring the Traps and Barak Kodo Bane and all that stuff. Like, the curve is kind of high-ish. You want to spew out cards quickly in the early game. You mulligan pretty hard for them. But you play a bunch of 4s and 5s. So if this is draw 1, it sucks. It has to be draw 2 or more. It has to be an AI.
Yeah, but I mean, post-quest, right? Like, you are spending everything, and then this is getting you more resources and procking the quest. Procking the hero power. So maybe not get you there. Early game. You know, either it's going to get you there, and there's enough times you get down to, like, 1 card, it draws you 2. It's still better than multicaster in that deck. And you know, when you start, like, throwing everything to be able to hero power as many times as possible, you will often run your hand out, and then that does get you refill. So it doesn't have to be amazing. It doesn't have to be Divine Favor. It just has to be better than multi.
Yeah. Though I will point out, Multicaster has a hidden bonus text of it gives you a target for your own overwhelms. That matters a lot. It comes up a lot where you overwhelm or piercing shot your own Multicaster. I've been surprised by how often that's been relevant when your opponent just doesn't play
better minions that can generate you spells that are not that, because you'll have so much room for not having to run.
What's the better minion? What are the better minions?
I don't know. I don't know what they run now.
Wandmaker is not a better minion. Venomous Scorpion is not a better minion.
I like Wandmaker. Honestly, when I was playing around with Quest Hunter, and before the multicaster stuff, I was experimenting just with including secrets for more draw, and kind of hated it because the secrets were either like really good or completely awful.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think there's a world where quick shot doesn't stick around in core, and then this gets a lot better. I mean, we lose Warsong Wrangler. I do think that for the current version of Face Hunter, I think you're right. This doesn't draw as many cards as people think, because usually by the time you've run out of stuff as the Face Hunter, you're pretty screwed anyways. And
Well,
it's
you
gonna
want to play the
be-
5s, right? Like, you want to play
Right, yeah.
Rhino
wanna play
and Kodobane. Yeah, but Rhino is rotating, so maybe Wrangler gets worse. That there could be a world where we
Wrangler
don't have a
doesn't-
compelling top.
Does Wrangler stay?
Wrangler's Barons.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, it didn't show up in my search because it doesn't actually have draw in the text.
Oh, Rhino was with Dark Moon Fair? I thought that was Barons. Oh,
Nope.
thank God.
Rhino is gone.
Get out. Thank goodness.
Yeah, it will. But yeah, I just think that these kind of cards, we did play Voracious Reader and Hunter when we had stuff like Phase Stalker, but right now there are a lot of cards that incrementally add a card to your hand, or that are valuable at 4 mana, like Piercing Shot. I don't want to cut Piercing Shot, but Piercing Shot and Furious Howl in the same hand is just going to feel awful. And there have been so many times when I just have buffs in my hand that have no target.
I ended up in a lot of situations post-quest where it was just like, well, I don't have enough stuff, right, to close out the game. Or it's like, I spent my last spell completing the quest, and now I'm top decking. So I think in a no secret, no multicaster version, that this could open up deck building possibilities that were just not quite there previously.
Yeah.
Well, keep in mind, though,
however,
Quest Hunter got a draw
like,
spell. Quest Hunter got Dragonbane Shot. That card's nutty in Quest Hunter. Ridiculous in Quest Hunter.
Right. But I mean, however bad, like, getting one card off of Furious Howl is, it has to feel better than top decking a secret that you already have out when the quest is active.
Yeah.
It does. That is true, but you still have to play Explosive. Like, Explosive, you have to play.
Yeah, no, I mean, you play Explosive.
Sure, but that's
you don't need to
fine.
play Ice Trap and other
That's-
stuff like that. Just to be able to
I
get
like
the cast.
Dunbalder Bunker, and I like Ice Trap, too. Just... It's the double freezing trap or explosive against no minion decks. Yeah, but maybe in Cora's board based meta, then maybe we need all that stuff. I don't know. Yeah, I'm curious. Dragonbane Shot's the biggest upgrade to Quest Hunter to me, and I think that you'll have stuff for a while. I kind of want to end up in a board state where I let a Trog live for a minute, so I can go shot, and just keep farming their Trogs. Because you get to make new targets for it.
Yeah, it's a little questionable.
Listen, I'm not saying it's a good plan. I'm saying I want to do it. Speaking of things that are not good plans, let's talk about cards we don't understand, including this rogue card, Smokescreen. 8 mana spell, draw 5 cards, trigger any death rattles drawn. I went to the deck builder. If you could pick 5, if you could choose what this did every time, if this was always summon 2 7/7 taunts, deal 16 damage, deal 2 8 damage missiles, I don't even know what the 5th death rattle would be. I don't gain 8 armor? Does it gain 8 armor?
Yeah.
If you work backwards from the best case scenario that you get to choose, that you guarantees gets the best value every time, and you know the top of your deck, then you go look at the deck list that could possibly do that, and you're like, this is embarrassing. Because that means you're playing a rogue deck that wants to play an 8 mana spell to draw 5 cards and hit a 10, an 8, an 8, and an 8, assuming that your hand has 5 spots in it, which it probably doesn't. So normally the question I ask here is why. That's not the question I'm going to ask today. The question I'm going to ask today is how? How do you even... I feel like I got delivered IKEA furniture and there's no manual, and I have to build this somehow, and there might be a piece missing, but I don't know, because I don't have the manual.
Yeah, I wonder if they're gonna bring in some more death rattles in future. I mean, we had questions about, other death rattle decks before, and they brought in more stuff. I guess it was mostly with Demon Hunter. But this feels over, compensating for the existence of prep. It's sort of like, well, we have to account that the deck can run prep, so we don't want it to be too cheap because otherwise you can prep it out and it comes out too early.
Okay, but if you ran the deck with Moorg Forge Fiend, double Owl, double Colossus, 2 preps and 2 smoke screens, do we foresee that? Was that a problem in playtesting? Was there a situation in playtesting where they ran it this we gotta tune this down. We gotta deal with this.
If it was
you're gonna
6
put like
mana.
Loan Sharks and Tomb Pillage in your deck. You'll have so much mana by the end of it. You'll burn all those cards, but you'll have so much mana left.
But if you burn them, you don't trigger the death rattle because they're not drawn.
That's details.
It does seem weird.
It's a pretty important detail.
It does seem weird when the other death rattle card is like draw a death rattle that costs 4 or less. So like this really wants you to have big death rattles, and that one wants you to have smaller death rattles. So it's kind of like just being the worst version of anything. But yeah, I guess I wonder if they tried it at 6 and it was too good. I mean, it's draw 5 cards, right? So they're pricing for a couple of powerful effects here. It just seems...
Rogue draws 5 cards for breakfast, though. Like,
yeah.
That's like... I don't know. Like, Rogue is not a class that's known for its love of paying 8 mana for anything. Unless it's their entire hand. You know?
The Rogue Galakron costs 7. You drew 4 cards, they didn't cost anything, you gained 5 life, and you got an Arcanite Reaper. This might get you 8 damage to a random target, if you got the hand space.
You did play Dragon Queen Alexstrasza in that deck.
Yeah, that costs 0. It's fine.
Well, yeah, that's true. That's fair.
But it's, like, there are cards where I can dream up the best case scenario and say, okay, but that'll never happen. I cannot think of a best case scenario here that would exist that could possibly exist in a game of Hearthstone. I cannot think of any deck where the payoff here, if you stacked your deck with Polkelt, would be good enough because you wouldn't have 5 empty spots in your hand or be alive. And otherwise, if you built a real Hearthstone deck, first of all, you wouldn't add Smokescreen because it costs 8 to draw 5 cards and then do nothing. And second of all, what would you hit? There's Kobold Sandtrooper isn't even in standard. Like, what is a low-cost neutral death rattle that is not embarrassing to play?
You hit yourself in the head by putting that in your deck in the first place.
Yeah, you can't hit Loan Shark because that adds coins to your hand, and you run out of space for the other death rattles. It's like I don't know what I don't.
You just bought a bunch of Korax. That's all.
I don't want a bunch of Korax. I don't. So
Korax devouring ectoplasms and
that is a lot of work for an adventurer. That was.
I mean, we're already going on an adventure if we're playing this card, right? So I mean, we may as well just stay on theme.
Yes, an adventure to casual. So, card that I didn't understand last expansion was Stormpike Aid Station. So you can say I have a good track record here of cards that make no sense as printed in terms of deals for the cost. All right, Edelweiss, give us a cool card. We're almost done.
All right. So is it cool? Yeah. So the card I don't understand is Bracing Cold. And that is a shaman spell, 2 mana, gain 5 life, discount a spell in your hand by 2. And I guess the saving grace is that it's a frost spell. So like good for a multicaster. This just strikes me as not worth a slot in a deck. Because usually life gain things that have been okay are also a minion. So like they do something on the board. Or they gain you a crap ton of life. Like previously Control Shamans ran things like Healing Rain, which gained 12 to your whole board. Or there was a 3 mana spell that like jousted with the opponent, and so you healed 7 or sometimes 14. Yeah. Healing 5 for 2 mana, I guess kind of for free because it reduces a random spell in your hand by 2. I don't know. I guess you're doing this for multicaster reasons, except that Windchill already has that covered pretty well between the copies you run normally and then Sleepbreaker. So I just don't know where this would go because it's not worth a slot.
So there is a tweet from Cora about this that seems particularly important. This is a design that changed pretty late in the game. It used to read, restore 6 health to your hero, reduce the cost of spells in your hand by 1. Turns out that mass cost reduction isn't a great idea. Don't say we never learned anything.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh, Paul reading the heals. That would be better than a priest card. Good lord.
That reminds me of the warrior, not Spellstone, the scheme, the warrior scheme.
Oh, Dr. Boom's scheme, yeah.
Based on the art and the effect, I was sort of like, this used to say shuffle bombs, didn't it? And then they had to change that.
Yeah.
So
I mean, maybe in Burn Shaman, maybe, but I mean that list is pretty tight. Like, I could see there's a use case for reducing like a Serpent Shrine portal or a Frostbite to be able to fit more burn in a turn. Like, maybe, but you're probably gonna hit one of the 1-cost spells with it almost every time. So, and you don't really have trouble with getting like Frost spells are not the ones that you have trouble with for multicaster in that deck. It's usually the nature spells or like the 2 copies of Primordial Studies. It's not usually Frost getting this off.
Okay, hear me out. Turn 1, coin Bracing Cold. Turn 2, Wild Puck Caverns. Huh? Yeah?
All right.
Yeah.
Please don't actually do that. Like, you could. Lightning Bloom is rotating. We're pretty hard up here for turn 2 Wild Puck Caverns. But yeah, I don't envision this seeing play in a lot of decks unless the meta is probably less powerful than Barons, and that I don't think that's gonna happen. It's a cheap frost spell. It's a cheap frost spell that you can play proactively. But instead of this card, I would probably play this other card. Wind Chill. I would play that one. Or Sleepbreaker to get me a Wind Chill to load up my multicaster. Probably better than the 5 health. Like, a spell that doesn't really cost you mana in the long run is okay if the effect was something we wanted. I'm not going to say no to 5 health, but I wouldn't break an appointment for 5 health. I would have to already be free for the 5 health. Yeah. So I don't know. And a card that you didn't understand, Edelweiss, was To the Front. We've actually kind of figured out what that's for, at least to one particular use case.
So.
I do think it will be relevant overall as well. Like, in the Onyxia, the 4/5, the Onyxia's, what is that thing? The 4/5 taunt that deals damage equal to armor or whatever.
Shield Slam minion?
Yeah.
Shield Slam dragon?
When you end up with a dragon...
Drake is what you're looking for.
Yeah, that one, Onyxian Drake. If you're in a Dragon Warrior...
Mega Devastator.
Yeah, if you're in a Dragon Warrior, then, like, if you're going to have a bunch of 5s and 6 cost minions in your hand, and you play it to the front, and then you spit out a bunch of them, like, that could be okay. I could see that.
Yeah. I kind of more imagine next... Well, actually, no, Barons had all the rush stuff. So I was going to say next 4 set, some kind of shift over to the play taunts plus the 3-drop that lets you draw stuff with taunts, but...
Could work, still. Like,
probably
if they print... If they print 3s, the card to the front needs 3s. Needs good 3s. You've got a couple, but not that many. All right, Steve.
All right.
Get the last card.
So mine is Horden of Wrathion. I took all the priest cards because, you know, you can take the boy out of the priest, but you can't take the priest out of the boy. Horden of Wrathion, which is a 3-mana spell, draw a minion. If it's a dragon, summon 2/2/1 whelps with rush. So this is basically draw a minion. That's the text on the card. Because, like, I can't imagine a deck that is... Even Miracle Priest is not going to get there enough with Malygos. Like, it's not saying draw a dragon, right? It's saying draw a minion, and if it happens to be a dragon, then you get to do this. So sometimes it'll help you not die, but most of the time it's not, because we don't have enough dragons that are good enough to put in decks right now, and a lot of the ones that are good enough, like Skeletal Dragon that you would think about, are rotating. So, like, and, like, typically, like, the minions are not the things that we're trying to draw that badly, at least not in a non-Shadow Priest. This isn't a Shadow spell, so you can't play it with Benedictus. So, like, I mean, if we're running a really spell-heavy minion light deck, then maybe. But I don't, like, you'd either have to be doing that or a deck where everything is a dragon, or a lot of things are dragons to get this to go off. And I'm just like, I'm not even, like, considering a post-Insight world where there's literally no reason you're going to play this over Insight right now. Like, none. Because Insight can discount it and discovers. Oh, it doesn't discover, but it can discount it, which is better, and it costs 2, not 3. But, like, it's going to have to be a very specific scenario where we're going to want to get a minion specifically out of the deck, especially because Quest Priest is still going to be a thing that just lets you discover out of your deck, period.
I mean, if we're all dragons already, then this is a card that we're playing 100% of the time.
Oh, yeah.
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 So
it's just a lot to get there.
Well, so the question is, is all Dragon Priest going to be good? That is the question this card is asking. We have to be, like, you can't play Zyrella the minion. Seems like a big ask. Right. You can't play Mida, because if this misses ever, it shouldn't be in the deck. It has to be Dragon exclusivity. Yeah.
And there's a lot of good priest minions, like Light Shower Elemental, Spirit Guide, Mutinous is not a priest minion, but it may as well be, right?
Yeah.
So, like, there's a lot of good dragon. I mean, you're gonna get the 4-drop, right? Like, that's something, but that's not enough to do this. And it again, it's not tutoring, it's just drawing a minion. I mean, it's tutoring a minion, but it's not tutoring a dragon, which is, if it was draw a dragon and I could always get Dusky Boy off of it, sign me up. I'm all for it. But that's not what the card says.
Yeah, if it was get a dragon, well, then it would just be broken. It would just be draw. It would be a 3-drop that says draw a Dustbreaker and get your 2 whelps. But this is moving. You can't play this card in a Zyrella hero deck because none of the Death Rattles are dragons, I don't think. So it's just moving priest.
No, they're not. None of them are.
Yeah. So it's building it for this is accounting for a different direction that you could take priest if you want to play dragon priest instead of quest priest, Zyrella priest, whatever, Death Rattle. And theoretically, you might still be able to play dragon quest priest, but again, we need a lot of help to get there. So as of right now, this card looks and feels out of place. I could see a world where this happens. Unlike Smokescreen.
Or maybe Wild, right? Like, maybe you play Dragon Priest in Wild and you try to make that happen.
Honey.
Good luck with that, but,
that's... Wild's not about that life these days. Wild's got some other stuff going on. There is a good priest deck. It does kill you on 4-ish. Turn 4-ish.
Yeah.
That whole Divine Spirit thing, still pretty powerful. Still pretty good. Yeah. Hey, we made it. Ad Steve for the show goes 45 minutes longer, as tradition, as expected. So, we have many folks we'd like to thank. Check out our thanks section on the website, Concede.com. You can find our contact info, our show notes, and our Patreon information. You can monetarily support our show, patreon.com/CoinConcede. Join us every week live by following us on Twitch, twitch.coinconcede.com. Join our community chats in our Discord at discord.coinconcede.com. Write into our email at coinconcede@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter at CoinConcede. Like, share, and follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/CoinConcede. Like some CC swag, head into our shop at shop.coinconcede.com. Go follow Wicked Good on all the social media accounts at Wicked Good on Twitter, Wicked Good on Twitch. Is it Wicked Good or Wicked FM?
Wicked Good FM.
Wicked Good FM on Twitch. Yep. Go follow him right now if you aren't already. And we promise not to judge if you aren't already today, though I am what's the if I have consternation, is that being concerned? That doesn't feel right.
That doesn't sound like a word. That sounds like something you just made up.
It does. All right. You get the I'm cross with you if you haven't followed him already, but I'll allow it this week. But if you're not following by next week, I can't help you from any consequence that may come your way. So big thanks to our producers: Number Theory, Doshi K, Proby1, Crash, Cat, Beef Squatch, David P, Snowpack, Lucky, Veda Black, Wild Lou, Itinerant Wizard, and Jeremy T. We had a few subs: Mad K, Number Theory, Vino Spumoni. Thank you so much for your support of the show. Edelweiss, you get the first Coin Concedes because I forgot to type Wicked Good in the show notes. So let's go.
So, Coin Concede, of course, to Wicked Good for joining us, helping us cover for Bot, and just moving our way to a fully Jewish podcast. That's that's what it's all about.
L'chaim.
Coin Concede as well to Just a Guy on Twitter, or Stephen Georgiou, Cora's dad. I'm buying a desktop from him, and he's been very helpful in terms of making sure I get what I need at a reasonable price with a good payment plan. So I always like to buy from people I know if I can help it, and I'm excited to have a desktop like soon-ish. It's gonna be a pretty big shift. And then Concede as well to my coworker Allison Burbs, who she covered for me so I could like do a thing for my grandmother that I had scheduled before I had received the work shift. And so she was able to cover like the first hour so I could pop on to work once that was over.
Thanks, coworker. Steve, Coin Concedes.
Well, I will first of all concede to the two of you and to Bot for, asking me to be on the show and inviting me into this family. I've been listening to the show since Cora was a regular host, and
Oof.
Yeah, and I remember listening to her be a guest host on Valen's Chosen. There's a blast from the past, right?
Yep.
And then started becoming a listener of this show, and then obviously Discord member for a long time, and it's an honor and a privilege to be invited onto the cast and to be part of this with you for every week. And I'm also going to concede to my wife Maureen, who is amazing, and because it's been a long time since I've done a podcast with other people that involves scheduling and recording at a particular time, and it's a big time commitment, and I thought about it for a while, after you all came to me. It didn't help that I was in the middle of a work crisis at the time, but and then I thought about it for a few days, and then I asked her about it, and she no hesitation immediately, "You absolutely should do that. Why are you even asking me?" So because she is much smarter than I am, and she's just amazing, and I'm really lucky to have her. You will occasionally find her on my stream, most often when we open packs. I guess this will just be a Coin Concede streamathon going forward, with one of us rolling into the other, the way that things line up. But
Probably.
but
Tended to go that
she's
way.
amazing, and I'm really thankful that she was so supportive. I wasn't surprised she was to be supportive, but as enthusiastic and supportive as she is for me to do this, and so all the thanks to her as well. And I'm looking forward to being on this journey with you all.
Yay. Well, if you like Steve, listeners, as you should, stay here, because he's going to be on more episodes, including next week. And Coin Concede for me to Luker. He just announced in a twit longer, as is tradition, he's moving on from Hearthstone. He's been in the game for a long time and streaming it, going the variety streaming way, and just kind of finished his journey there and is looking to start a new one. So Luker has been, mainstay of the community for a long time, and I hope that the future endeavors bring him as much happiness or more as the Hearthstone ones did. So thank you so much, Luker, and good luck on the journey. That's gonna do it. So keep calm and go follow Wicked Good on socials. I told you. And if you see us on Ladder, Coin Concede.
Coin Concede.
Coin Concede.
We did it! Stopping recording. Good, the chili's
I was
done.
getting a little nervous because I learned the hard way doing one of the card reviews that voice recorder will stop at 3 hours.
Oh boy. Yeah.
So I was kind of looking over at the time like, oh.
Yeah,
this is gonna be a fun one.
There weren't that many spots where we have crosstalk to hit. There were a couple, but not that many. And yeah, usually the episodes we've been hitting more of the 2 hour mark, but for some reason, new card episodes with a new host, who could have seen this coming? There's no way to plan for this.
There's not been any time that we've had anything go like less than 2 hours to begin with, you and I. So
yeah, and then we have Edelweiss here too.
Add a third person. We have a third person. It takes 3 hours. It will not be that way every week or every other week, I'm sure.
Nope. And also, not usually does the episode news section cover 2 patches. That is also unusual.
Bit of an anomaly.
So, yeah, we'll see. I bet next week will be Masters Tour preview and how's the new meta feel and all that stuff. We'll see. I mean, when I say next week, I mean in 5 days.
Yes.
So yeah, hey, everyone who's here, thank you so much. I'm going to bring the stream down, but thank you so much for being here.
Thank you all for being so welcoming. I really appreciate all the love that was in chat tonight.
And for anyone that somehow didn't hear me, go follow Wicked Good on socials right now. Here, I'm gonna host his channel. He's not live. Just to make it easier for you.
You're gonna see a purple screen is what's gonna happen.
Yeah, with a follow button, go click it. All right, bye.
All right. Bye.